Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to round one of the Irish Drift Series live here from Mondello Park. I'm joined in the commentary tower by my good friend and legend drifter Conor Shanahan. Conor, we just witnessed an incredible qualification battle this morning, and it's left us with 32 drivers. We started out with close to 80. The best of the rest are still here and ready to go, and we are just looking at some of the battles that we have lined up in our top 32 bracket, and there are some mouth-watering battles ahead of us. Most notably, and very interestingly, James Dean going up against none other than Josh Holsworth in what could be a very, very interesting and exciting battle. And I think for two people who are involved in pretty successful vlogs, I think we should have some very interesting content coming in the coming days. Could Josh Holsworth be the one to take down James Dean at the top 32? Well, he was in the pits having problems with his alternator, and I'm hearing that he has now got a new alternator taken from David Egan's spare drift car. So Team Drift Games helping out Teams Dean, and a very exciting battle to come. That will be, of course, our first battle up. On the other side of the bracket, qualifying in second position was Max Cotton. Interestingly enough, he could only now meet James Dean if both of them were to make it to the final. What an outcome that would be for that young man if that were to be happening. There's a lot of driving to be done between now and then, though, Conor.
Yeah, definitely. I think Max is probably looking at that battle now and saying it's an advantage in his eyes. He doesn't have to worry James until he gets to the final. Yeah, you know, he seems to be driving strong, but to be honest, there's a lot of strong drivers here. I think what we haven't seen the best of yet. Qualifying was very interesting. I think some drivers struggle, some drivers shine. That's always the way it goes for the first round. So, yeah, it's definitely exciting. But yeah, Max and James are obviously the two favourites after qualifying. But you know, anything can happen after the first top 32 battle. Anything can change. So I'm excited to see what way it's going to happen. But yeah, we're about to kick it off, Eddie. With, as you mentioned, Josh and James. I'm really excited to see what way that one's going to fare out. I think Josh could be a bit of a wild character on the door of James, definitely.
So that puts us to, our judges. A little bit has changed, obviously, since qualifying. We now have a little bit of a different setup with two cars going out on track. We will have a lead car, a chase car, but Kieran Hines is going to show us how all of that works. Judging panel today, of course, Kieran Hines, Mike Fitz and Jack Shanahan. Kieran, talk us through what exactly is going to be required from the lead and chase driver point of view.
Well, what we're really looking for is for the lead driver to run that perfect qualifying line. The track is designed in that way. If the car is on the correct qualifying line, it'll be easy for the chase car to chase him. We will be marking heavily any driver who is on the incorrect line. So, like if they're say offline and not getting out into some of the clipping zones, it makes it very difficult for the chase driver to be able to get on their door. So that's where we would mark the lead driver down. So we're looking for that perfect line in lead position, and we're looking for the chase driver to get in close, get good proximity, and to be able to mirror the lead car. And of course, obviously, battles didn't swap around, and they get an opportunity to do it the other way. So that's the way we'd be scoring it. And as I said, we'll be very harsh on the lead car, on the lead line.
From the judges, that's what they will be looking from the lead and chase driver. There are some other rules which we will talk you through. Yes, some other criteria that we'll talk you through right now. So, battle criteria. Battles are scored as a lead car's line and chase car's proximity. Battles are scored on a 5-5 basis in conjunction with comparing lead to lead and chase to chase. There are no 5-minute rules, and there is a maximum of one more time per battle, which the judges, after much, must make a decision. If the judges cannot make a decision after a one more time battle, the decision can be based on both combined runs. In the event of two incomplete runs in one more time battle, judges fall back to who qualified highest. The lead car goals: run the qualifying line, run a 100-point qualifying run a chaseable lead run, and follow the acceleration-deceleration map. The chase car goals are to initiate no later than the lead driver, maintain close proximity to the lead driver, match or better the lead driver's angle, and mimic the lead driver's transition and line throughout the course. So there you have it. There are other aspects of the competition that may arise here and there, but we will talk you through them between myself and Conor. And if we need input from the judges, we will certainly go to them for their input. Conor, any other battles that you've seen there that may have popped up and grabbed your attention? Obviously, we've discussed James Dean and Max Cotton being on different sides of the bracket, but some other interesting matchups there as well, particularly Kevin Quinn taking on Charlie Geary in my eyes.
Yeah, definitely. And another one interesting on the other side of the bracket is Kevin O'Connell and Zach Gibson, young driver versus an experienced driver. But we're about to kick it off.
Yeah, and it looks as though we are ready to go with that battle. We spoke about it. James Dean, the 3-time Formula Drift World Champion, multiple European champion, multiple Irish champion, takes on Josh Holsworth, who is competing for the very first time here in Mondello Park. 2 Mazdas on the grid. Here we go. They leave the line. Dean versus Holsworth. Who can take the win? Who can take it into the top 16? Well, James leaving Josh for dead here. It looks as though Josh, as he cuts the course now to try and find some proximity, he needs to find a little bit of... but Josh goes off track.
Yeah, it's an off for Josh. And, you know, in my opinion, I was kind of thinking that the way he dived, I was expecting something was going to give, but yeah, James was up and gone there from the start. But to be fair to Josh, you know, he gave it his all to try to get back into it, but it just didn't work out. But fair play for trying.
Yeah, I think Josh knew very quickly there that he was going to have to, you know, make a dive and come offline. And you know, when you go up against the world champ, you got to throw everything at it. And I think exactly, you know, he wouldn't have expected to progress past this battle, but he certainly gave it a good fight. And I would imagine he would have some interesting footage. But of course, we are not done yet. That's only the first run, Connor, and we still have the second half of this one. Talk to us about the difference, trying to being the faster driver, trying to chase in a slow car, particularly a driver with significantly less experience.
Yeah, sometimes it can be challenging because, you know, a silly accident could end up in your fault, and even though it might not be your fault, but at the end of the day, it could be deemed your fault because you're just pushing, you know, overly aggressive when the car is slow in front of you. So, yeah, I think, you know, James is obviously clever. He's the most experienced driver here by far, so he knows, you know, what to do in these, you know, in these times now, and I'm sure Josh should give him a decent lead out front, and I'm sure we can expect that Falcon Tire RX-7 to be glued to the door.
Yes, and making an absolute show. And we, you know, he talked about coming here to put on a show for the fans. I don't expect that you would see James hanging back too much here. Certainly not throughout the whole run. No fear of a non-contested run here, I would imagine, in the second half of this battle, Connor.
No, that's what I would be thinking. Anyway, I'm sure James won't be afraid of him, and you know, sometimes it's nearly easier to get up on the door of the driver because, you know, if you're leaving a gap and you come through the smoke, anything could happen. You're not expecting something what the driver does, and yeah, it could end up, you know, very badly. Whereas if you stay close, try have decent proximity for the whole lot of the run and try judge what the driver is doing, it's much easier to judge in the long term.
So Josh gets recovered from the gravel pit, as you can see there, and the marshals will have a quick look over that car, just make sure that everything's okay, everything's where it needs to be, nothing leaking. Obviously, you know, the risk of some damage after going into the gravel so aggressively, but looks as though marshals are happy with him. Send them back to the start line where James Dean is already there waiting for him, and you have to feel maybe nerves released a little bit for Josh here, knowing that he's at a 10-0 disadvantage, that maybe he can just drive a little bit more freely this time around.
Yeah, probably they can just have fun out front now, and you know, not worry about being in the battle fight as such, because obviously with James having a 10-0 advantage, there's not a whole pile he has to do to advance on to the top 16. So I'm sure Josh knows that, and Josh will enjoy this battle. It's a cool moment. You know, anybody who gets to battle James is obviously in, you know, a really cool moment. And Josh's first competitive event to say that he went up against James as top 32, win or lose, is unbelievable in my eyes, you know. Yeah, and I think he'll have that photo memory at the end of it all, and this live stream to look back on as the time where, you know, it's almost a little bit of bad luck that you've drawn James in the top 32, but at the same time, if you're going to go out to anybody, it might as well be the best in the world and have that opportunity. I think there's a lot of guys on the grid that would love the chance just to compare themselves and go door to door with him and see how they fare. And you can see a lot of drivers just out of their cars and wishing Josh the best. Obviously, it increases their own chances of taking home a trophy today if Josh could take down James. But, you know, we call him the machine. Is he likely to make a mistake here? Hardly. Yeah, it's doubtful. We don't want to talk about that too much, but yeah, it's doubtful. Look. So anyway, it looks as though it's going to be Josh leading James in the RX-7. So yeah, it's exciting to see what James can pull out of the bag here, and you know, in a level of that James is going to be much slower and stuff. So or Josh is going to be much slower and stuff. So I'm interested to see what James can manage here. But hopefully Josh's car hasn't suffered some damage, but it should be okay. Yeah. So Keane Droney taking a final look over that car just to make sure no leaks have developed. Get the thumbs up from the marshals. This is going to be Josh Holsworth to lead in James Dean. Second half of this one. Here we go. First battle in our top 32. Josh Holsworth throws it sideways, and look at this, the machine right there, tentative at the off, but holding
in poise, and now he starts to turn the screw and find the door of that Mazda MX-5 of Josh Holsworth, as Josh puts out a solid lead run here, giving James perfect opportunity to get up onto the door. Serious size difference in those two cars, and yeah, you can see James just holding back and giving Josh that space. Hand out the window from Josh and a little love tap as they cross the line. Two Mazdas, two good friends, and you know what? A good run from Josh, and I think something that he can be happy with. He'll look back on that and say, you know what? At least in the lead position, I gave it everything that I could, and if it wasn't enough, so be it. We need to go to our judges to get a decision. Should be pretty clear-cut after the 10-0 on the first run. But quickly over to you, Kieran Hines. And Mike Fitzgerald.
My vote is with James Dean.
And Jack Shanahan.
My vote is with James Dean.
Jack Shanahan makes it unanimous. James Dean will progress on to the top 32.
So yeah, we move on. Eddie, an interesting battle there between James and Josh, but James takes it and advances on to the top 16. And next we have...
Yes, we have Magic and Tomas Falvey. And I think a very interesting battle when you consider Falvey qualifying in 17th. Magic pulling out a really strong run on his second attempt at qualifying this morning, getting himself into 16th. So he is the higher qualifier here, which means he will lead in for the first half of this battle, Connor. And, you know, we talked about both of these drivers earlier on, and one thing that kind of comes true in a commonality about both of them is that they both have the potential to go far in the competition, but they need to find that consistency. And who will be the more consistent driver over the course of these two runs? Well, we're about to find out. It will be Magic to lead in Tomas Falvey. Here we go as they come through the gears and leave the start line.
Yeah, you can see Magic enter in here, and Tomas Falvey's left a bit of room, and you know he needs to get up onto the door here because we're not sure what Magic can do in the chase position. So you can see Tomas Falvey closing the gap now, a nice close transition as they transition back into that long pull up, and Tomas Falvey leaving a bit of a gap here, Eddie.
Yeah, Falvey not really seeming to have any sort of attack here now. Perhaps this is a strategy, but you know, is it a case that Magic just has too much pace, or is
Magic seemed quick out front, but I think you know Falvey maybe left a bit of a gap in the first corner and didn't expect it to be the pace what it was. Still not a bad run overall from Falvey, not really making any mistakes, staying on the qualifying line as such. He kind of dived in here to get back on Magic's door, but nothing crazy. He got the proximity, made some close transitions, and I think he was expecting Magic to be slower here and dive up onto the door, and he kind of got caught with a bit of early braking, but not a bad job overall, and Magic not a bad leader out front either. Yeah, I think this one certainly hangs in the balance. Maybe a slight advantage then to Magic, perhaps, as we go into the second half of this one. But Tomas Falvey, I think the spotters will be on the radio saying, you got to pull out a really strong lead run. His lead run was good. You didn't have that proximity. Make sure he can't get close to you and leave nothing uncertain when it comes to the judges making that decision. So yeah, as they roll back around to the line, and this is the advantage of leading out front now. Magic spotter will come in and say, okay, he wasn't crazy close. Here are the points where you can improve if you want to try take the win. And on the other hand, Falvey's spotters will be telling him you need to try to do a good lead run. If he stays close to you, there's a chance that he could take the win here. So yeah, it's an interesting battle. Very level playing field in my opinion. Just how important is the spotter, Connor? Because even at this level where, I suppose in top level competition, you're really taking note of everything that your competitors are doing. But how much at this level is a spotter valuable to a driver? Yeah, to be honest, in my opinion, it's more important at this level, because in a pro level, in Drift Master and stuff, every driver is going to be pushing ridiculously hard, so it's quite even to tell who's good and who's not good or what you need to do. And I think here you don't really know the whole pack of drivers, so it's important to be able to tell, okay, we watched this guy in practice, he's decent, he can chase drive. So definitely is important here, and we're going to find out now what Magic can do chasing in Tomas Falvey. That's exactly it. We are about to find out as they leave the line, and Tomas Falvey in the lead position this time round. Magic coming for that door. Can he find that proximity? A bit of an error there for Magic, and Tomas Falvey kind of pulls away out front. He's up and gone here, and yeah, it's a good lead run out front from Magic, and Magic got caught unfortunately on the inside curve on the way in. Falvey's a bit offline there, but yeah, Magic's trying to get the door, but Falvey's too quick out front, and you know what? This could have been a clever plan from Falvey here, knowing that he had the pace out front. Magic making a couple of errors. A good lead run for Falvey. I think it's swinging back in the balance of Falvey, in my opinion. Yeah, certainly swinging back. I think what may be looked at it from the judges, was there something from Tomas Falvey that caused Magic to have that little error through that first corner? But that's for the judges to decide. Certainly Magic definitely backing off, and as you say, did he get up on that inner curb? And perhaps maybe that was his issue, as the judges still look to be deliberating this one, but we will be going over to them very shortly for their decision.
My vote is with Tomas Falvey.
And Mike Fitzgerald.
My vote is also with Tomas Falvey.
2 votes for Tomas Falvey means he's going through to the top 16. Unlucky there for Magic. Quickly back to you, Kieran. Did it come down to the second half of the run, or the second run?
Yeah, the first run there I scored a 5-5. Tomas never really got close enough to get proximity. The lead line wasn't exactly perfect either. He didn't have a perfect line to chase. When we swapped it around, Tomas had a reasonably good lead line. He was a bit wide all right on 2 to 3, but Magic never really got close. And the biggest error he made really was he sacrificed Clip 4 on the transition to try and get back proximity, which he never really got. So it's by a very small margin Tomas took it.
So there you have it. Tomas Falvey taking the win, moves on to the top 16, where he will face James Dean later on this afternoon. We go swiftly on to our next battle, which will see Christy Gerrard taking on Owen O'Connor. Owen O'Connor there just in the background warming those tyres, managing to secure himself a spot in the top 32 with just one qualifying run. Connor, what can he do here against a Christy Gerrard who looked very quick this morning?
Yeah, I think from watching qualifying, it should be another level playing battle. It'll be interesting to see. I think key here is staying close on the chase run, and especially for Owen here, he's not 100% sure what he's going to do when he's behind him. And look at this right up on top from straight away from the get-go, and Chrissy's looking quite up front, but Owen dives in on the transition again. But transitions get stuck behind him a bit on wheel drop. And Christy's same thing as qualifying, Eddie. He's out in front and he's proving strong again.
And for these guys, Connor, that are used to maybe doing practice days and doing some close driving, and then coming and doing a qualifying session, they can look very good in qualifying. Particularly in the chase position, how difficult is it to get comfortable with having that car in front of you and transitioning close to them?
Yeah, chasing can be a very difficult factor, and in my opinion, it's chase driving what wins events. And it's something what you need to be good at, and that's something what I take advantage of from playing the simulator. It taught me a lot when I was young of left foot braking, and it's very important. If you can't chase drive, you can qualify first at every event, but you're not going to get past the top 32, and it's as simple as that. And you can see here, Owen had he had times of brilliance when he made a mistake after the first corner. He's getting stuck in some places. I think just experience is what it comes down to there, and it'll be interesting to see what Christy does when they flip it around to the chase run.
Yeah, well, certainly Christy looking like a driver that is very confident in his line at the moment. And will that transition over to a good chase run? Can he get a good, solid lead line from Owen O'Connor? Well, the thing we saw earlier on was that Owen O'Connor did have that good qualifying line in his arsenal. Can he reproduce it, though, and try and pull a gap on the second half of this one as they make their way back up to the start line? They'll probably have a quick word from the spotters, letting them know where they lie as they switch positions now. And we await word from our start line marshal. 2 thumbs up from both drivers. Cian Droney getting ready to release them. It will be Owen O'Connor this time round to lead in Christy Gerrard. Here we go, second half of this one, all to play for here, and a big gap opens up. Owen O'Connor taking an early advantage in the second half of this one. Can Christy Gerrard find something, though, through the latter stages? He needs to try and find a little bit of proximity. May have that advantage going into the second half of this one, but he won't want to play it too dangerously. And right now, very shallow as he comes around, not getting that proximity and really running the risk of bringing Owen O'Connor back into this one by virtue of not having a close chase, Connor.
Yeah, definitely a very difficult one there. I think Christy was outpaced. He didn't really have any proximity through the whole run there. Yeah, you flip it around back to the other run. Owen maybe had proximity, but he was making mistakes, so it's going to be interesting to see what way the judges look at this and analyse what way they're going to make the decision. So yeah, it's an interesting call, but I think it's still quite close, and it's up in the air of what way it could go.
Well, to get that decision, we will go over to our judges. Mike Fitzgerald, who's getting your vote?
My vote is with Christy Gerrard.
1 vote for Christy Gerrard, 1 more, and he'll progress into the top 16. Kieran Hines.
My vote is with Christy Gerrard.
2 votes for Christy Gerrard. He's moving on to the top 16. Not enough on the second half of that battle, Mike, to sway it back in favour of Owen O'Connor.
Yeah, exactly. Christy almost threw away a massive advantage there from the first one. Christy laid down a nice lead line in the first battle. Didn't do anything crazy or anything spectacular, but just was a nice steady chaseable run, which is what we want to see. At least a chaseable run anyway. Owen made a big dive in the first corner. We didn't see any massive braking from Christy or anything like that, so just there was a big dive. It left him out of position. It was a mistake and he was on the wrong line, and he dropped some wheels as well. He was just in the wrong position basically. In the second run, when we switched them around, Christy almost threw away all that advantage by having basically no proximity, but overall over the 2 runs, Owen's mistakes on the first one we deem to be a bigger mistake than Christie's lack of proximity.
So there you have it. Christy Gerrard moves on to the top 16. We move it back to the start line where Alan O'Loughlin will take on Kevin Kindregan. And Alan O'Loughlin coming to the forefront of Irish drifting over the last number of years. Kevin Kindregan, a star from the past and one to watch here. We haven't seen him competing in a number of years, and he's done the odd event here and there. What can he do against Alan O'Loughlin, who has looked so strong, qualifying right up the order in 9th position? Kevin Kindregan just slides a little bit wide as Alan O'Loughlin looks to lay down that solid lead run once again, Conor.
Yeah, Alan O'Loughlin's looking strong up front again. Kevin didn't do a bad job there in entry. He kept decent proximity, and he's still not doing a bad job. He's not making crazy mistakes, but yeah, look straight, straighting there from the transition. It's it's on the borderline of making mistakes, in my opinion. He's made a couple, and strong from Alan O'Loughlin out front again. And in my opinion, Alan O'Loughlin is looking one of my favourites for this event, to be honest with you, Eddie.
Big words early on, and same bracket as James Dean, but yeah, it certainly looks very comfortable on the circuit, Conor. And I tend to agree with you here. I think if he can keep this sort of form going, he could find himself with a real shot at a podium here towards the end of the day.
The next run will tell a lot for us. If we put something decent out of the chase, out of the bag, he's definitely going to be up there with a contender for today. But as we said a while ago, chase driving is a big factor. So if he can manage to pull something out of the bag with that, it should be a very successful day for him if he can stay going on the form he's going. But we can't rule Kevin Kindregan out of it yet. It's only one run in, and
that's it. I think we're relying on Kevin to deliver a really solid lead run.
Absolutely.
To answer a lot of those questions. If he can deliver a solid lead run and Alan can't get anywhere near him, then things start to go back in his favour. But if he puts out that perfect lead run and Alan can stay on his door, well, then we know that Alan is a real contender for the afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. This run is going to be a very interesting run. So we've Kevin Kindregan to lead in Alan O'Loughlin, and here they go. Oh, a bit of a jump from Kevin Kindregan.
There you go, false start.
False start. A bit excited. Yeah, the leg slipped off the clutch. But we're back to the grid, and Joni gives him the thumbs up, and we're almost ready to go. And here we go, Kevin Kindregan
lead them in. Alan O'Loughlin to give chase. Will we see that consistent run that we were looking for?
So here we go. Alan O'Loughlin dives in, but Kevin Kindregan seems to have the pace out front now, Eddie.
He certainly does, but can Alan O'Loughlin find something towards the latter stages? Maybe deciding just to give Kevin Kindregan a little bit of room, and now starts to make the dive.
Brave day from.
Look at this door to door here, and Alan O'Loughlin maybe making a tactical move, just giving that little bit of space. It's a long circuit, lots of opportunities to make those dives and gain that proximity back towards the latter stages, and I think Alan O'Loughlin doing just that.
Yeah, absolutely. A strong performance there from Alan O'Loughlin, using his head. Maybe not the cleanest of chase runs. He needs to be careful with that dive if he gets caught in that dive with a car with hard braking, because drivers are using that corner very different every single time. So he needs to be careful for that, and diving in like that can be very risky and ending your weekend very fast. But we're about to flip it over to the judges and get a decision.
Yes, and we will go straight over to Jack Shanahan, who is going through to the top 16.
My vote is with Alan O'Loughlin.
So one vote for Alan O'Loughlin. Kieran Hines?
My vote is with Alan O'Loughlin.
2 votes for Alan O'Loughlin. Alan O'Loughlin moves on to the top 16. Jack, Alan over the 2 runs. He's looking confident at the moment.
It was much better by Alan, I thought. On his lead, he had a few little issues. He wasn't really on line from 1 to 3, and 5 to 6 wasn't great either, but Kevin kind of straightened behind him as well, which kind of made me lean towards Alan after his lead run. And Alan's chase was just a little bit more consistent, and on Kevin's lead he missed clip 3, 4 and 5, and it was just the wrong line from start to finish really. So that's how Alan had the advantage for me.
So Alan O'Loughlin moves on. We move on. Stephen Halferty taking on Keith Diver. And Keith Diver with a bit of a challenge here against, that he's up against. We've spoken about the consistency and the difficultness to beat and take down Stephen Halferty. And he's looked comfortable already this morning, qualifying in 4th position. Diver down in 29th. He's in the show. He has an opportunity. Can he take it? He needs to find something nice and early.
Yeah, so here we go. And look, Stephen Halferty's up and gone already here. And Keith Diver is, he's running from the back of the pack now. And Stephen is strong out front. And Diver's making, he's not making mistakes, he's staying on line, but Halferty is quick, and this is what we've talked about. Halferty with the perfect car out front. I thought he was gone.
Close.
I thought he was gone, and I was just about to give the commentator's curse, but
I think he gave himself a fright there.
Big time. I think that was a little bit of a wake-up call there with the pace he was carrying into that corner.
Yes, possibly a little bit of complacency there slipping into Stephen Halferty, but if he needed a wake-up call, as you say, Conor, that right there will have been it. And the 2019 DGN champion, you know, giving Diver an opportunity there, and just about rescues.
I definitely thought he was gone. I was like, oh no. But yeah, you know, coming back to that, what I was talking about, Stephen's car seems to work very well with whatever he's been using, the same setup as last year, and he's got pace, you know, and that's a big factor here when everybody's, you know, back on the road tires and stuff. It's all going to come down to who has that extra little bit, you know, who can get it out, and that's a perfect balance of a car. You know, so you see working well, but yeah,
I think he keeps it simple though with that, car, and I think that's you know, sometimes guys can try and over-engineer cars, thinking that they need to have massive horsepower, or they need to have, you know, fully sequential systems in their car, but Halfrey just keeps it steady and just concentrates and focuses on his driving and being consistent, and that really shines through at the end.
Yeah, definitely, as we switch them around, and you know, Keith Diver now to give lead to Stephen Halfrey. We know Stephen Halfrey can chase, you know, he's a very strong chase driver, so if he can hold his head here and, you know, watch the pace of Keith Diver, he could be looking at going through to the top 16, I think.
So obviously not as much of an advantage going into the second half of this one as he would have had without that error, but I think, look at this, yeah, he's going for it straight from the off, not holding back one bit, not looking to get caught for pace. And Stephen Halfrey, as you said, Conor, a very steady chase driver, and that has earned him that title of the Drift Games National Champion in 2019.
Yeah, you
very
can see
sensible
here,
drive here.
Very sensible drive, and he's getting right up onto the door here. He's proving a point here to Keith Diver that he's a stronger driver over the 2 runs, and that's what the judges like to see. Diving back in, confident chase run for Stephen Halfrey. That's a very strong run in my opinion, both runs.
Yes, a very confident performance, as you say, Conor. I think it's a very nice way of putting it. It's showing the judges that he is confident and that he is able to chase a slower driver and manage the car and the pace and everything that goes with it. So we go back over to our judges. Mike Fitzgerald, you're looking at me as if you have a decision. Who's going through to the top 16?
Yeah, my vote is with Stephen Halfrey.
1 vote for Stephen Halfrey. Jack Shannon, who's getting your call?
My vote is with Stephen Halfrey.
2 votes for Stephen Halfrey. He's going through to the top 16. Mike, very briefly, over the 2 runs, Halfrey doing enough to get the call.
Yeah, pretty clear one there, Eddie. Very, very good line from Stephen, as he's getting very known for at this stage. Great lead line. Not a bad line either, actually, from Keith on the chase position. He stuck to his line. He did the right thing. He just didn't have any proximity on the first one. Switched them around. Stephen did everything right. Didn't overcommit or anything. Just kept himself in nice proximity. And a good run from both drivers, but overall, Stephen ran away with that one.
So there you have it. Halfrey moves on. We have 3 more battles in this side of the top 32 bracket. First up is going to be Kieran Casey to take on Sam Nolan. This one is going to be close because these 2 guys qualifying quite close to each other and really looking comfortable out on track. Kieran Casey with that wealth of experience. Sam Nolan bringing that new element to the competition.
Yeah, here we go. Kieran Casey flicking in. Seems to have a bit of pace down the straight and pulled a little bit. A gap for Sam Nolan, but a little correction there for Kieran Casey, but he makes it work. And Sam Nolan is trying to find the door of that Fleet ID Nissan S14, and Kieran Casey's doing a solid job out front here, Eddie.
Yeah, really strong job from Kieran Casey. He looks very comfortable. Sam Nolan in the chase position, losing some of those clips, locking up on the brakes there, just not managing and maybe just not comfortable in that chase position just yet, Conor.
Yeah, definitely a very strong drive from Kieran Casey there out front. Only 1 wobble, let's say, on the first transition, what I noticed. But, you know, at the same time, Sam Nolan not doing a whole pile wrong, staying on the qualifying line, and, you know, it might not have had amazing proximity, but didn't really make massive mistakes during the run, which is always a good thing. And, you know, that can come back into the balance when Kieran is chasing Sam, that if Kieran makes some mistakes and might have proximity, they might go back to the run of Sam.
Yeah, he's kept himself in it, and that's really the important thing. You don't want to put yourself at a 10-0 disadvantage, and you never know what will happen in that second run. But you know what? I think Kieran Casey, one of the more underestimated drivers on our grid, and you know, a real quiet guy outside of the cockpit, but behind that wheel, and he is certainly a steely competitor to come up against. And Sam Nolan is learning all about that right now. But he's still in the fight here, and you can see him just hold him back there. I bet he's on the Radio 2 spotter, just trying to get a little bit of an idea. What could I have done better? What can I do? What can I change here just to try and get the edge on Casey going into the second half of this one?
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's going to come down to here about Kieran chasing as well. Kieran's going to have to be clever here and, you know, make sure that he doesn't make a mistake, because if he makes one mistake, you know, the show could be over. Sam didn't make many mistakes in his run, so Kieran needs to be clever here, and I'm sure Sam, from, you know, his performance in practice and qualifying stuff, should be able to give him a good lead out front. So here we go, Sam Nolan to lead in Kieran Casey for the second half of this battle.
Yeah, Nolan needs to find something and needs to hope for the best, but with the experience of Casey,
Kieran Casey up onto the back quarter panel straight away and diving in on Sam Nolan. Sam Nolan looking strong out front and drops the small wheel, but yeah, this is a strong performance from Kieran Casey, coming a bit offline there to stay with Sam Nolan, but he's all over the door of Sam Nolan through the first part here, and it's a strong run so far from Kieran Casey, but Sam Nolan not doing a whole pile wrong out front as well, Eddie.
No, but I think what the difference is over the course of the two runs here is the steadiness of Casey in the chase position. No real errors, doesn't have insane, amazing proximity, but he's allowing Sam have that space, and he's keeping just within touching range at all times, without putting himself in a position where he's forced into errors. And I think a very clever drive there from Kieran Casey. And as they come back in front of the marshal to await their result to see who's going through, we go over to the judges to get a decision. We go first to Mike Fitzgerald. Who's getting your call?
My vote is with Kieran Casey.
One vote for Kieran Casey. Kieran Hines?
My vote is also with Kieran Casey.
Two votes for Kieran Casey. Kieran Hines. Kieran looking very, very comfortable out on track there, and quite a clever chase run, but he's getting your call over the two runs.
Yeah, well, looking at his first run there with Kieran had an okay lead run. Now it wasn't perfect because he was a bit tight after two, which meant he got to three early. But that's difficult to chase. But basically, Sam didn't have the proximity to be affected by it, and Sam never really got proximity from there on. So after the first run, we had a 6-4 to Kieran, and when you swap him around. Sam made a slight error on entry, just coming towards clip 2. He kind of shot at the pitch angle. There was almost contact. Kieran did well to avoid it, but from there on, Kieran just kept proximity to the end of the run, so took the advantage over both runs.
So there you have it from the judges. Kieran Casey moving on to the top 16. We got a mouth-watering one up for us. It's a battle of experience versus novice. It is Dan Moorhead to take on Niall Garrity. Niall Garrity up against it here, but he showed that he has what it takes to get himself into the competition this afternoon. But surely an underdog against Dan Moorhead, Conor.
Yeah, definitely when it comes to experience. I know you're looking at Dan as the favourite here, but anything could happen. And look at this, Niall not afraid of it at all, but gets caught and makes a mistake. And Dan is looking strong out front here, and Dan seems to have good pace in his car as well, and he seems to be working, quite well with it. And I actually had a chance to grab the word with Dan while we were on the bench there, and he said that he's feeling confident in the car. And you know what? At the same time, Niall not doing a whole pile wrong there for his first chase run on competitive driving. Yeah, looking very comfortable out on track, and again, for your first event to manage to get through a battle like that is a lot in itself. Yeah, you can see there in the replay where he came a bit close. He kind of panicked and came off him. To be honest, he would have been better off if he just stayed in and even did touch his bumper and tried to get back on him on the transition. But not doing a whole pile wrong, didn't come off crazy off his line anywhere. But yeah, Dan was strong out front, so I think maybe this is hanging in the balance of Dan. Yeah, it's probably a very difficult aspect to I suppose to grasp and to learn is sometimes when and when not to come off power, and sometimes just as you come off power to try and avoid an impact, it could be the exact moment when your competitor is going back on power and pulling away. So judging that will be, I assume, obviously very important for these guys. If they can get it early on, it's going to increase their chances of progressing in competitions. So we switched them around for the second half of this battle. Not the perfect run there from Dan Moorhead either, Conor. I think it's a couple of clips where he could have been deeper. No major mistakes, mind you, but I think certainly leaving something for Niall Garrity to go at here. Yeah, I would agree with you. It wasn't the best performance from Dan out front, and yeah, I think we're going to get a look at the replay of this run as well. So I think what we will have, though, in the second half of this one is the experience of Dan Moorhead in the chase position. I think the judges perhaps maybe wanted to look at the entry here. First transition, I think, and you can see Dan is. It's kind of. I think I might know what the judges are questionable here. And Dan's line through the first corner was maybe a bit wide, and Niall wasn't expecting him to be that far across the track. At the same time, I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure, but from looking at that replay, if there is a reason why they're looking at it, maybe that they're looking at Dan's line through the first corner. Yeah, could it be that maybe Dan was slowing the car for too long a period there to try and stop himself from going off track, which then may have affected the line of Niall Garrity? Again, we're only speculating at this moment. They must have their decision made, because I think we're going to move on to the second
round. We're going, back to the start line. Yes, we get the thumbs up to say they have made their decision. They know what's going on. But yeah, the experience of Dan Moorhead now in the chase position could weigh through now. And can Niall Garrity hold his nerve out in that lead position? That's going to be all important as well. Yeah, look at this. And Niall Garrity has got up. He's after pulling a bit of a gaff from Dan Moorhead here, and I think Dan is maybe playing this safe. Yeah, perhaps playing it safe, and maybe he needs to attack. Yeah, right now. And Niall Garrity putting foot to floor. That's a fast car, that BMW, and Dan Moorhead You know, struggling to find a way back into this one. Could Niall Garrity be winning his first ever competitive battle and taking down veteran Dan Moorhead? Dan finally comes back, but I'm not sure if it's enough. Depending on what way the judges see that first run, this could be an interesting...
I think it's going to come back down to that, and you know, it's an interesting one. I'm not sure. I think the judges are going to maybe have a look at the replay. They're going to decide.
Calling for another replay there, Conor.
But yeah, I think Dan was maybe a caught for the pace there a bit. I think he left him off the start line, was a bit unsure of what to expect, and I think Niall was quick. We know that car is fast. You know, Harry has been a championship contender in that car on the same tyres and stuff or whatever. So yeah, you know, I think it's an interesting one. Depending on the first run, if the judges, whatever way they go with it, they could be hanging definitely in the balance after the second run, 100%.
Yeah, so we can see them in the corner of our eye, all just focused on the screen, awaiting that replay, and a nervous time for Dan Moorhead, not where he'd want to be. You know, obviously a lot of nerves coming into it, a strong performance in qualifying in fifth, coming up against an inexperienced competitor in Niall Garrity. But Niall Garrity
had a strong lead run out front as well, didn't he?
Had a very strong lead run, and you know what? He's going to be sitting there on that line going, hang on a second, if the judges haven't given a decision yet, that means they're talking about it. That means I'm in with a shout here.
Yeah.
And could I be about to go into the top 16 to take on either Kevin Quinn or Charlie Geary? I mean, this is a big moment here for Niall Garrity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe the one thing I could pick from that lead run was a little correction before the last transition, but nothing major other than that. Yeah, quite a strong leader from Niall. Judges are still deliberating this one, so obviously there's some points they need to talk about, and it's not as clear cut as maybe people think or what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so they'll all see it their own way. They'll discuss, deliberate a bit of back and forth in relation to it. Could we see, Conor, our first one more time?
Yeah, could be a high chance of that maybe.
So you can see Mike Fitzgerald
explaining something.
Yeah, explaining something to the other judges, but it looks as though they are going to a decision. So still arguing over this one are the judges. We're starting to see some heads get nodded. Does that mean we're getting a decision on it? So it looks as though we are going to go to the judges to get a decision. First up, Kieran Hines. Kieran, a lot of deliberation about this one. Who's getting your call?
Yeah, there was a lot of errors from both runs, so it's very, very close, so we want to see them go one more time.
And that's a unanimous decision across the board, is it? From all three judges. Okay, so we're going to see them one more time. They are going to go back to the start line, and Niall Garrity gets a second crack of the whip here, and Dan Moorhead a moment to just, I suppose, reassess and figure out what was going wrong with himself.
Yeah, definitely. I think Dan is quite an experienced driver, so he probably should...
Very quickly, Kieran, just talk us through it. You discussed it for a lot. There was an error there, or there was problems on the first run. What were you guys discussing?
Okay, we'll say with Dan's run in the lead position when he was leading, he makes a little error on entry, shallows his angle small bit, and washes a bit off of clip 2. Now, we were looking to see if it affected the chase car, but the chase car was not close enough to be affected by it, so he made an error as well in the chase position. And from there on, it was not really very much proximity. And then when we swapped them around, the lead driver, he's running with practically no angle. He's got very, very little angle, so it's very difficult to get proximity when someone's running so shallow. But he was still on a very slight advantage because of the separation until we get into clip 7, the second last clip, and he has a straight one coming down the hill. So that brought it back to a 5-5. So it's just one more time.
So one more time, and we are about to see that one more time straight away. The advantage here, Conor, of not having semi-slick tyres. These guys have enough grip here to go straight back into it. Dan Moorhead in that lead position. Can he correct his ways this time around? He'll be gunning for it. He won't want to be taken out of the competition at this stage. Garrity, though, now has had more time to think, but it comes attacking, and they almost make contact.
Yeah, definitely almost the same mistake there again, and yeah, very similar to the first run. Dan came in very hot there again, and Niall was on his heels again, but yeah, Dan's doing a good job of it this time, and Niall's thereabouts, but you know, as what the judges are looking at with Niall's angle, it's very interesting, but not bad proximity from Niall Grady. You know, he's driving well for his first event.
I've got to say, taken to it like a duck to water here, Conor. I mean, this is really impressive for a guy who's got, you know, relatively minimal experience. He's done a few practice days, but, you know, to jump in at this level and come up against someone like the caliber of Dan Moorhead and not look, out of place, well, that's an achievement in itself. And he is in the fight here. I mean, he's given Dan Moorhead a run for his money, and he's given him something to think about each time they go back to that start line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Dan is going to have the thinking cap on here, going back to the starting line. He knows the last time that what he done wasn't good enough to win the battle. So he's definitely going to have to make a decision to go a bit closer. In my opinion, I think that's what he needs to do. So hopefully we can see that beautiful skyline of Dan Moore is glued to the BMW of Niall Gretty's.
Well, that's exactly it. That's what we want to see. Is we want to see close and competitive chase driving, and we're yet to see some proper door-on-door action just yet. But we are only a few battles into the top 32. We may have an opportunity to see it this time. I think Dan has to go caution to the wind here, and in that chase position, leave nothing to chance. Garrity to lead in. Moorhead one more time. We will have a decision after this run. Someone's going through to the top 16. Who's it going to be though, as Garrity leads it in? Tidy line from Garrity as Dan Moorhead now keeps a safe distance through the S's, but will he mount the attack as they come into the faster section of the circuit? Again, Garrity just has that pace, and Dan Moorhead just can't seem to match it. He's close, but he's not able to get on the door.
Yeah, Dan is not having the proximity here, but another thing I'm looking at is Niall is not maybe the widest on the places on the lead run out front, and another thing is the judges about arguing his angle as well, but there's not a whole pile he can do. The car is grippy and it's underpowered, so he's trying to drive at what he has, and Dan was left a bit back there again, but a bit better than the first run, so it's going to be interesting to see. I did notice Niall making a couple of mistakes on his chase run, so it's going to be interesting to see what way they swing this one.
Well, we do swing it back to the judges to get their decision on the battle that went one more time. Quickly over to Mike Fitzgerald. Mike, thumbs up. Who's going through to the top 16? A tough one.
My vote is with Dan Moorhead.
One vote for Dan Moorhead. We go
my vote is
Jack
also
Shannon.
with Dan Moorhead.
Jack Shannon also goes with Dan Moorhead. Dan Moorhead moves on to the top 16. Quickly, Mike, very briefly, obviously we heard about the first run. The second run, though, a little bit more clear-cut in the favour of Dan Moorhead.
Yeah, slightly more clear-cut. Just on the first one, Niall had it, like Kieran said, up. He probably just had it up to the straighten at the end, so in the second one then turned it around. He had a big entry, an aggressive lead. In the chase position, Niall just had a lack of angle, and he had to straighten again just before the final corner, so that gave Dan quite an advantage. Not a huge advantage, but like a 6-4 in all money on the first one. Now on the second one, Dan had a good proximity. He didn't overcommit again. He just had nice proximity, mirrored the lead driver. Now Niall had no errors, but again, not massive angle, and just on those two things, it was enough for Dan to take it over the two runs.
So there you go, Dan Moorhead moves it on. We move on to our next battle, and this is a real exciting one. Kevin Quinn versus Charlie Geary. Two completely different driving styles, two completely different cars. But one thing is for sure, these two guys will be going hell for leather at it. A wealth of experience behind the wheel from these two drivers. And look at this, door on door, straight away from the off. Charlie Geary goes hunting the door at that S15 of Kevin Quinn. He knows Kevin Quinn's going to have a fast car. Charlie really sacrificing line there, Connor, to get on the door of Kevin Quinn. Kevin Quinn giving a good lead run out front.
Yeah, absolutely. Very aggressive through the first corner for Charlie. A really nice chase run. Drops a wheel there into the last corner, and yeah, good from Kevin out front. And
Charlie Geary just completely bogs down, and he knows he'll be.
I think Charlie got caught there a little bit. I think Kevin had a little bit of big angle moment through that corner, and Charlie just wasn't expecting it, and very aggressive through the first corner, and made a little bit of a mistake on the transition here, but other than that, it was a really good chase run, and Kevin doing a good job out front as well.
So certainly two very experienced drivers giving it their all, and a lot going in favour of both drivers really after that run. Seriously good lead driving from Kevin Quinn, and up until that point in time Charlie Geary was right in it, but just puts himself now at a huge disadvantage. And we've talked about Kevin Quinn coming through the ranks as one of these drivers who's no fear of putting that car in danger, and he is getting better and better every time he comes out on circuit. So judges calling for a replay on that first run.
Yeah, I think they're looking at something here when Charlie spun in the last corner, and looking, was there strange movements in Kevin's car? It does look a small bit that Kevin maybe had a bit of a stall up on angle when Charlie got a bit close to him, but I'm not sure what way they're going to look at it just right there, and then Kevin comes up power again. But I'm not sure if it's enough, if that's the reason why Charlie spun.
Yeah, and obviously with those cars being so powerful as well, quite often errors can be masked by the
You
use
can
of.
just get back in power
Yeah.
and you'll pull out anything. So.
Whereas in a lower horsepower car, that might be a lot more clear cut. So now Charlie Geary hasn't moved towards the line. So is there an issue there? Perhaps that he's reported. We see Kieran Droney is on the radio.
Okay, I think
door
we're
open.
after seeing something there, that there was a tire off Charlie's car, was there? Okay.
So what we're hearing now, obviously there's been a change of the rules this year and that there is no 5-minute rules. What's been reported is that Charlie Geary has debeaded a tyre.
Okay.
He does not have a 5-minute rule to go into the pits, so unfortunately he can't make the run, meaning unfortunately that will be the end of his weekend. Now obviously with that, it was looking as though perhaps there was going to be a disadvantage. We go back over to the judges, but being not able to complete that second run, we got to go to the next battle, and it means Kevin Quinn moves on to the top 16. And with that, Connor, we move over to the second half of our battle grid as well. So we move into our battle with our second place qualifier. Max Cotton will be taking on Gary Feely, who Gary Feely just scraping in 31st position, coming against Max Cotton, who we've talked about him, and he has taken the drifting world by storm in the UK, and he is looking to do the same here on Irish soil. But he's got a tough competitor in his first battle, Gary Feely, just warming his tyres there and getting the call to move to the line as we are ready to go.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting battle again. Obviously, we know Max is proving strong today and has the experience in battles. We haven't seen him drive yet, in person, but I'm looking forward to this one, and I'm sure Gary's not going to be afraid of him either. He knows he can lean on Max here, so here we go.
Yeah, exactly. Having that confidence, he may not have driven with him before, but he'll know that by seeing him on the podiums in the past, that this guy is one that you can trust and you can commit against. And Max, again, just on a really solid line here, looks very comfortable, tucked to it like a duck to water. But Gary Feely now bringing the fight into the final sections here as he looks to make a dive. A bit of a shallow line inside that 3 meters, so quite close. Big dive now down the inside towards the latter stages of this run, but very steady out front from Max Cotton.
Yeah, absolutely. Unbelievable lead run there to what we expected from Max, but you can't take it away from Gary. That was a very good chaser in my opinion. Nothing I could really see, that he was making mistakes. Had very good proximity through the first corner. Had to back off a bit when he got close to the Max's car, but he done the transition nice, stayed out of line, and these lead runs are becoming a thing for Max. He's really strong out front, and only thing maybe he came off power here a bit and came in a bit from the line, but other than that, it was an absolute pinpoint perfect lead run. But I have to say, Gary did an absolutely exceptional job here. He dives in on the door, really nice close proximity, and stays there for the whole run.
Yes,
very good run.
Very good car control, particularly on that dive towards the end as they cross that line. Then Gary keeping himself in the fight, and we talk about it all the time. It's like, don't put yourself out of the battle, out of the fight. And Gary Feely now, as he goes into that lead position, we get to see what Max is made of in the chase, and can he just reproduce what he's been producing all morning? Certainly, all signs pointing in favour of that being a yes. Gary Feely won't be wanting to bow out at this stage of competition either, so he might have some other ideas for the youngster.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important here. I'm not sure if Max is communicating to a spotter or not, but it's important he goes close here. If Gary does a good lead run out front and Max is away, Gary had a strong chaser, and so I think Max is going to have to push on the door here and lean on Gary and see how it goes from there.
So Marshall's about to give him the orders. Yeah, thumbs up from Max and Gary to lead them in for the second half of this one, and one that definitely hanging in the balance. No major mistakes or errors on either side. So can Max Cotton overcome his first test of the day here, which is Gary Feely? Gary just a little bit wavy there as he...
Yeah, look at this, and Gary's strong enough leader out front, but look at Max right onto the back quarter panel again, and yeah, this is close driving, but a little bit of a shallow transition from Max into the inside, but he's back up onto the door of Gary. Strong leader from Gary out in front, but Max is right there, caught for a little bit of pace, but he dives in again, and
this is tit for tat, really. I mean,
it's strong runs both around, and I have to say
it's hard to pick anything on either run to say who have a more of an advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Two strong, I think, lead runs. I think if it comes down to lead runs, I think Max's lead run was maybe a bit stronger there, but I think the wow moment for me in that run was the proximity through the first corner, what he carried, which was very good. Other than that, I'm not sure. I think the runs were pretty similar.
Well, we go to the judges to get a decision. Jack Shanahan, who's getting your call and moving on to the top 16?
My vote is with Max Cotton.
So 1 vote for Max Cotton. 1 more, and he's going through. Kieran Hines, give us your call.
My vote is with Max Cotton.
2 votes for Max Cotton. Cotton moves on to the top 16. We move on to our next battle. Sean Devine taking on Dylan Keogh.
Yeah, a very good battle there, but I'm looking forward to this battle as well. And you know what's even more impressive about this, the winner of this battle is going to take on Max Cotton in the top 16. So it's not going to be an easy top 16 battle for Max. 2 strong drivers here, and yeah, you know, a driver who Max is already driving with in the UK is Dylan Keogh, who's second in the Pro-Am Championship to Max. So it's quite an interesting one. But Sean Devine is up and gone here off the starting line.
Certainly is, yeah. I mean, was it a case that Dylan Keogh was caught napping, or it'll be interesting to see on the replay when it comes around? But certainly, Dylan Keogh needs to find something special here to bring it in, because Sean Devine is absolutely gone. Now, Dylan Keogh's found some proximity, but on a shallow line and cutting the circuit in order to get there. Judges will certainly be watching that one. And Sean Devine was up and gone.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a strong show for Sean Devine out front there, and you know, there wasn't really much other to it. And look, Sean Devine was gone here down the straight, fast through the pace cone. He was clever there from the starting line and gone. You know, that car gripped well, and there was a big gap even before they got to the first corner.
Yeah, it's unusual, Connor, because when you look at it, sometimes when you see a gap like that, you see, you know, maybe somebody stalled on the line, but they seem to leave the line.
Yeah, no,
quite,
absolutely. I think
together,
Sean was just. I think you know, Dylan didn't expect him to be as fast, and he just got up and left straight away, basically.
Well, Sean Devine, a difficult competitor to come up against at the best times, and now to have a disadvantage against him, Dylan Keogh will really need to find something special in the second half of this run. And could it be that the fortune that he's faced in the BDC, he may not face it here in the IDS this weekend? So they make their way back to the start line. And we do switch them around for the second half of this one. Sean Devine, Dylan Keogh, Keogh to lead in, Devine, thumbs up from Cian Droney, and we are away.
Yeah, here we go. Dylan Keogh to lead in Sean Devine for the second half of this one, and Sean Devine is right with Dylan here, closer than Dylan was in the first run. Bit of a straight line entry from Sean following in Dylan, but he's much more closer than Dylan was in the first run.
Oh, big angle, and looks like it's going to be.
That's a mistake.
Yeah, that's a huge error there from Dylan Keogh. And
that's
that's
a deciding factor right there, and you know, no matter what you need to come back from that, you're not going to do it. Yeah, Sean Devine was smart there, very clever driving, and Dylan Keogh was the man making the mistakes, and I think Sean Devine is going to take this one into the top 16 and face Max Cotton, which is an exciting battle.
Yeah, I think that is a very exciting battle to look forward to, and I tell you what, Max, in many ways, has no massive names on his side of the bracket that he has to come up against on his route to the final, but he has a lot of experience and tough competitors.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we need to make it official. Go to our judges. To do so, Kieran Hines, give us your call. Sean Devine or Dylan Keogh? 1 vote for Sean Devine. Jack Shanahan.
My vote is also with Sean Devine.
So no surprises there. Sean Devine moving on to the top 32. Unfortunate event for Dylan Keogh. He bows out at this stage of competition. So Sean Devine, top 16. Who's going to be our next driver to progress there? Colin McLaughlin or Daryl Barnett? Now, we've talked about Daryl Barnett as being one of the most talented drivers on the grid. Qualifying down the order, though, he's going to be chasing in Colin McLaughlin, this higher qualifier, qualifying up the order inside that top 10 in 7th position after that strong second qualifying run. So this one, very interesting, Connor, in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely, another close battle, I think, and Cal to lead in, Daryl in the first run. Both drivers have decent enough experience, and I think both are strong chase drivers, so this is going to be an exciting battle. And Cal leads in, and Daryl flicks in onto the door, and bit of a strange entry there from Colin. Daryl gets a bit caught, and yeah, Colin's up and gone again, and I think Daryl got a bit caught there in the first corner, and he's making ground now, but he's cutting the track massively to do so, and he's trying to get up onto the door of Colin. He's right there for the second half of this one, but yeah, Colin seems to have the pace out front any, and I think Daryl got a bit caught there in the first corner.
Yes, so Daryl, unfortunately, his experience not weighing true after the first run, and a really strong performance. It just goes to show the level of the talent that we have coming through the grid here in the ranks in the Irish Drift Series. A lot of drivers announcing themselves on the scene in the last year or two, and quickly becoming very comfortable and confident behind the wheel. And of course, they have a lot to live up to in terms of the reputation of this proud nation, and we've been lucky, Connor, to particularly over the last number of years, to really dominate the world with the drivers that we have, some of the best drivers in the world. And I don't think any other country can boast so many top-ranking drivers as we can from this small country.
Yeah, absolutely. No matter where you go, I think an Irish driver is one, and lots of drivers having success, and myself competing in Europe alongside with Dwayne, Kevin, and the other guys. But I think, James, the standout, star. I think he's probably the best driver in the world, in my opinion, and he's by far the best who's came from here for a while now. And he's incredibly good at what he's achieved, and it's not even about how good of a driver he is, but he's achieved it all over the world. So, yeah, we're quite lucky, but there's a good, strong group of drivers coming through. So it's very good to see that there's a young talent, still growing at the lower level of Irish competing. But we're back on track again, Eddie.
Yeah, for the second half of this one, it will be Darrell Barnett to lead in Colin McLaughlin this time around. Darrell needs to find a little bit more of his normal form here in the second run to try and give the judges something to think about as Colin McLaughlin comes hell for leather, drops a wheel, but he is so aggressive in that chase position now as he just won't lay down to Darrell Barnett. And you see a lot of these young guys, they're no longer scared of any of the big names in the sport. And a big dive onto the door there from Colin McLaughlin as he just bullies Darrell Barnett around the circuit, and they cross the line. Wow, what about that for a run?
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Cal, making a statement there, not afraid of Darrell at all, diving up onto the door. And I remember watching some of Cal's driving last year, a very aggressive driver. He's not afraid to use the left foot and get up close onto the door. So, yeah, I think it's pretty clear cut, and we head over to the judges for this one.
Yeah, swing it back to the judges for the decision. Mike Fitzgerald, who's getting your call?
My vote is with Colin McLaughlin.
One vote for Colin McLaughlin. Kieran Hines.
My vote is with Colin McLaughlin.
2 votes for Colin McLaughlin, no surprises there. He moves on, takes down Darrell Barnett, and he's into that top 16. So Colin McLaughlin moves on to the top 16. We move on to our next battle, and we're quickly running out of top 32 battles and spaces in the top 16. There's now only 5 remaining. End the lines now to take on Keith Brown in our next battle. They're about to leave the line. End the lines to lead them in. So here we go, end the lines. And Keith Brown just not the tidiest of entries, and just doesn't get the line right at all, and hasn't settled into this one at all yet, but no such issues for End the Lines, who looks very comfortable out in front, Conor.
Yeah, End the Lines seems to be having a strong chase from here. You can hear him absolutely clutch kicking that 180. He's on the verge of breaking something. But yeah, Keith messy behind, and yeah, Enda I think is the stronger driver there out front, and yeah, he's not afraid of that 180. Definitely, he's nearly overdriving.
Yeah, and he's certainly got used to it very, very quickly. Obviously, competing in his BMW E46 in the past, and making the switch over to that 180 SX this year, and yeah, certainly looks like it was the exact tool that he needed to showcase the talent that he has.
Yeah, definitely has a big advantage there. I think Keith was making a lot of mistakes, which isn't going to help him. So yeah, Enda doing a good job, missing a couple of clipping points. It wasn't a perfect lead run, definitely not, but it was decent enough that Keith could have got close, and Keith didn't have the proximity in that run at all.
So they are almost back through the grid to the start line, and certainly from Keith Brown's perspective here, a lot of work to do to try and force an error from the lead position, but also put in that strong lead run that would give the judges something to consider in terms of turning it back in his favour. I'm not sure he's going to get a whole lot of help here in the way of Enda Lyons. Enda looking very steady out there.
Yeah, definitely. It's just going to be interesting now to see what Enda does in the chase position. It's not going to be maybe the easiest lead to chase, depending on what Keith does. So, yeah, here we go with Keith to lead in Enda, and very early initiation from Enda
back there as well. Yeah, and he knows he has the pace. He probably has the better line. He doesn't want to get caught napping too much, but he has that advantage. And a bit of a dirt drop there from Keith Brown as he just loses the wheel, pushing as hard as he can to try and find something from that lead position. Very nice line as he comes wide, but a correction there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just keep it going, and you know what? He's done as much as he can here in the lead position, but it hasn't been perfect, but he's given himself an opportunity to get back into it. But I think you weigh back to Enda's lead run, and then you see Enda not making any mistakes in the chase position. I think that gives you a good idea as to which way the judges are going to be looking at this one.
Yeah, Enda played it very safe there. I think, without the mistakes of Keaton, his chase run nearly too safe to a certain extent. But yeah, Enda, I think, is looking like the favourite for this one. We go over to the judges again, Eddie.
Yes, to find out. Mike Fitzgerald, who's getting your call?
My vote is with Enda Lyons.
1 vote for Enda Lyons, and Jack Shanahan.
My vote is also with In the Lines.
2 votes for Enda Lyons to make it official. He's going through to the top 16. Unfortunately, the weekend will end there for Keith Brown. So our next battle on the line is Dara Spencer to take on Blaine Rafferty, and Blaine squeezing in there into the top 32, 30th position. He managed, but Dara Spencer, we spoke about him being one of the favourites here after qualifying, 3rd position with some incredible runs and looking confident here. Blaine Rafferty though might have some other ideas as he looks for the door early on and starts to bring the fight.
Yeah, definitely Dara's looking like a strong driver up front, but Blaine has definitely shown that he's not afraid of him here, and yeah, you know, really good chaser so far for Blaine. Been on the inside here, but you know, Dara's doing a good job out front, and a big dive in from Blaine to the last corner. But you know what? Not a bad run on both sides there. A very good lead from Dara. Maybe a bit strong for the chase what Blaine had, but I think, you know, Blaine should definitely be happy with that chase, not making any corrections, wasn't afraid of the door, and you know what, for his first event in that car, not a bad chaser at all with Dara Spencer.
No, certainly not. I think the only thing you could say against Blaine's chase run was just as he comes into this section.
Yeah, dived in a little bit.
Gets a little bit caught down the inside. Yeah. But you know what, Connor? Impressively, he manages just to back out and get back repositioned and back on the door as he transitions.
And that's the good thing. An important thing always is when a driver knows he's in a mistake, and you know, you can see Blaine relies, but he had no other choice to stay there. He done probably the best thing instead of making a correction just to try and make it look smooth and stay there. So, you know, it's going to come down. We know Dara can chase drive as well, so Dara's car seems to have the pace, but yeah, Blaine's lead run isn't bad either, so it's going to be interesting and definitely weighs on to the second run of this one.
Difficult after, you know, a tough qualifying session to come up against. You know, you see two guys in the top 32 that are so evenly matched that all you want when you get to a top 32 is just that easy battle, you know, just get me into the top 16.
Always the top 32 is the one what gets rid of the nerves, you know. For me, it's probably the most nervous point of the weekend. So yeah, when you have a hard battle in top 32, it's not nice. You just kind of want to get over with and get on with the show.
Yeah, and I think if you can go home having won at least one battle, you feel as though you've been involved a little bit more in the competition, you've had a little bit more track time and more opportunities to shine.
But yeah, here we go, it's Blaine to lead in Dara Spencer, and yeah, you know, this is going to be see what Dara can do here in the chase run. Is he going to go close to Blaine?
Yeah, well, I think he's going to do just that, Connor. I think he's going to be all over Blaine if he can keep the pace.
Wash is a little bit wide though. Wash in the first corner. Blaine did a good job out front.
You know, you can talk about qualifying position all you like, but look at this, under serious pressure now, making big dives, but that mistake coming through that first corner from Dara Spencer has thrown the advantage here right up into... Look at the chase driving though, he's giving everything he can now all over the door, but a really solid lead run from I think Blaine Rafferty. And
Blaine definitely you know, sent it very hard through the first corner, and Dara actually got a little bit caught and washed, and you know, I think Blaine was probably used the head a little bit there and knew that he had to drive hard, but a very good battle from both drivers there. Proximity was very strong from Dara from the last two corners is the only thing, you know, which could weigh into his favour, but I'm not 100% sure. Definitely was a mistake through the first corner, but then maybe that weighs out the balance of Blaine's mistake and his run, so it's going to come down to what was the better run of both. But yeah, have we a decision? They're still deliberating, I think.
Yeah,
so.
I'm not surprised. You know, this was probably one of the closer battles that we've seen. Some very steady driving there from Blaine, but did that proximity from Dara Spencer bring it back? We do get a thumbs up. Jack Shannon, who's getting your call and who's moving into the top 16?
My vote is with Blaine Rafferty.
One vote for Blaine Rafferty, and the place will erupt, I think, if he goes through. Kieran Hines, who's getting the call?
Vote is with Blaine Rafferty.
2 votes for Blaine Rafferty.
And Blaine Rafferty
moves on, and there's a
16.
few Blaine Rafferty fans in the arena, and I guarantee if we had an audience here, I think that would have been a fan favourite. That would have been an eruption.
I think that's, you know, that was a very good battle there, and Blaine drove very clever, and it's a very, you know, good sign that he's proving strong early on in that car. But you know, you can't take it from Dara. Dara done very well there as well. Had some, you know, wow moments, but it just didn't fall into his favour from, you know, the first corner on. But Blaine is the stronger driver today and advances on to the top 16. I think
really fine margins in that battle, and Blaine Rafferty coming out the victor. We move on. Zach Gibson now to take on Kevin O'Connell. Now talk about this. A youngster
this is
coming
what I was
through.
looking forward to as well.
You mentioned it earlier, Connor, you did, and I think this is a really exciting one. Interestingly, Gibson, the higher qualifier, less experienced than O'Connell. The head judge in the Drift Masters European Championship, can he get into the top 16? Well, Zach Gibson is looking good straight from the off here. No big errors just yet. And schooling the veteran here, Connor.
Yeah, absolutely. Zach on a mission out front there. A very good leader again, but Kevin is right up onto the door, and this is the chase we're going to be talking about Kevin. Kevin knows how to chase drive. He's a very clever driver, but you know what? Can't take it from Zach. Doing a good job up front, and Kevin, bit of heavy braking and gets a little bit of a gap opened up, and Zach pulls away just a little bit towards that last corner. But you know what?
And you know what? It was interesting, Connor, because as you were talking about it, about his ability to chase, and he was coming back into it, closing that gap, and it looked as though maybe Kevin O'Connell was doing the sensible thing and leaving that space. But then he makes that hard press of the brake, and it just loses that ground from him.
On the first transition there, I think Zach, he went straight. You know, I think Kevin was expecting him to go a bit wider and expected to just have a bit more play to get back up onto the door. Zach pulled a small gap. Kevin got back into it, but here I think he panicked a little bit and heavy braked. And Zach was on a mission to get away again, but hanging in the balance, there was no, you know, I can't see anything what way it would swing straight away. So, yeah, definitely an even playing field heading into the second half.
I think the second run's going to tell the tale here for these two drivers. But you know, it's one thing you always hear from drivers in the lead up to events is that they don't want to be embarrassed. You know, they don't want to not qualify, or they don't want to go out in the top 32. But with the talent that we have coming through the ranks at the moment, there's no such thing as an easy battle in the top 32. And you know, you could be going up against a guy that's a relative unknown like Zach Gibson. Kevin O'Connell, a former pro driver, a judge with the wealth of experience, but now he's in a situation here where he needs to find something special in this lead run, or he could be going home. What has Gibson got in the chase position? That's where the money is earned at the end of the day. But Kevin O'Connell now looks to have the pace here as Gibson takes a shallow line to try and gauge the proximity, and even with that doesn't get where he needs to be. And I think the experience of Kevin O'Connell may just be weighing out here over the two runs as we see him put foot to floor. Gibson makes a final dive and manages to keep it going there, Connor. It looked as though he might have had to slow up and stop, but kept it going. And
I think a big thing there is, you know, what I noticed, Zach Gibson's gearing doesn't seem to be 100% for this track, and when he's not carrying the momentum, when he's out in front, he has it down to a T from, you know, doing the runs in practice. But you know, when he's caught behind the car, it upsettles the car. He can't carry the momentum through the first corner. I think he expected Kevin to be a little bit faster there, and in my opinion, you know, Kevin is probably the stronger driver there over the two runs. And very smart driving, but I think Zach can definitely go home as you know, as a proud driver today. He's done well to qualify that high, and you know, have a battle like that in the top 32. He should definitely be happy and should be a contender for the rest of the championship, Eddie.
Well, let's see if the judges agree with our assessment of the runs. We go back over to them. Kieran Hines, who's getting the call and going through to the top 16, Gibson or O'Connell?
My vote is with Kevin O'Connell.
And Jack Shanahan.
My vote is also with Kevin O'Connell.
So Kevin O'Connell moves on to the top 16. Kieran Hines struggles with his words, and we move on to our next battle, which will see David Egan taking on Mark Brady. Two very good friends, two guys with similar experience, and two guys who will both be gunning for a top 16 spot. Egan's Drift Games teammate Jack Holsworth out of the competition after being beaten by, Josh Holsworth after being taken down by James Dean.
I think you're all getting a bit old or something, are you? Kieran Hines is definitely pushing on now, anyway.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's creeping in. It'll come to your door too, Connor. It'll come to your door too. Just as Mark Brady comes to Dave Egan's door.
Bit of a correction though, and Dave Egan put a small little bit of gap, and Mark Brady is still in this, but a strong leader from Dave Egan out front. And look at this, Mark Brady waiting for that dive, and whoa, up onto the door of Dave Egan, and he's pushing, touching, making contact on the transition there. And Mark Brady is on a mission here to try to take down Dave Egan.
He certainly is, and you know what? When you talk about contact, that's almost there is a thing as perfect contact, and I think that was perfect contact.
Yeah, he timed it very well there. He didn't dive in too fast, and he just absolutely done it really bang on. I think made a small bit of a correction here through the first corner. You can see a little bit of a wobble, got caught for, you know, a bit of a gap, but yeah, Dave, you know, a strong leader down front, but he can't mess around here. Mark Brady proved the point there. Look at this, up onto the door again, and yeah, you know, not a bad leader from Dave, but Mark Brady pushing the doors. Yeah, now the big thing here, Connor, and I think you know why we're seeing these guys going so close. They know each other's driving styles very well. They've driven with each other in practice days quite a bit at the Drift Games drive practice days, and they trust each other. They know they can go heavy. They know there's not going to be any games. The thing about it is here, I know David Egan is a very competitive person, and he's going to be hearing in his radio that Mark Brady ate him alive, and he's not going to be happy with that. So expect crashes here. Yeah, absolutely. I think Dave is, you know, I battled Dave as well at an amateur level myself. He was in a championship what I was in when I started, and he doesn't like losing.
No, and as Mike Leeson puts his hands over his face saying, I was hoping to get Monday off, but no, it's going to be body work. But you know what? They need content for their vlog, so breaking the car is what it's all about. So here we go, second half of this one. They are lined up, Brady to lead them in this time around. And Dave Egan, we know he can chase drive. He has proved it in the past. A very competent driver behind the wheel. I don't like saying it, But here we go, second half of this one. Brady to lead in Egan. Brady with a big flick entry, and Dave Egan comes looking for the door, but he's needs to. Oh, as they transition back, and now here comes David Egan putting on the charge as he loses his front bumper as they switch back as they go past clip 4, and Dave jumps down the inside, wheel to wheel, bumper to bumper. We told you there'd be contact. Dave Egan delivered. Big dive again through the final sections.
Oh,
and a straightener. Was there contact?
Oh, I'm not 100%
Unbelievable.
sure.
Two
I'm not
guys
100%
going
sure.
at it, and that, do you know what, for me, one of the most exciting battles that we've had so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not 100% sure there what happened in the last corner, but yeah, Dave Egan wasn't afraid of Mark Brady there, anyway.
No, certainly no fear, no backing down whatsoever. And you know what, if you're going to go out in the top 32, go out fighting, Conor.
Yeah,
That is
absolutely,
the way to do it.
absolutely. So yeah, you can see here, I think, I was kind of questioning Dave's proximity through the first corner, and then, you know, he dives up here, gets on the door. It makes the transition here very close. I think Mark dropped that little bit of a wheel, and he dives in here, and like, look at this for proximity. He nearly drove out over the top of him, and he just kept going, and he didn't stop, which is good. And they kept in it here. I'm not 100% sure. Dave dived in. Yeah, I think Mark straightened. I think that could be the lead car's fault. You know why Dave straightened, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those where it's so close, and it could easily fall. By being marginally more aggressive, Dave could have made contact, and it could have been a case that it would look as though the fault was in his court. But could he be getting away with it? Judges still having a quick little chat. Doesn't look like there's too much deliberation over this one, and I think we may have a decision coming momentarily. So just waiting for the thumbs up. Certainly an interesting one. I don't think it's going to go one more time, but it would have been a battle that I would definitely not have regretted seeing one more time. Those two guys really pushing hard for it, and you know what, in the first round, so judges still having a quick little discussion about this one, and you know, it's picking hairs at this point, and when you have a battle like that, very interesting over the course of the two runs. Hard to tell which way they will be swaying here with it. And a nervous wait for Brady and Egan, and good friends off the track, and I think they'll have enjoyed that one. And
Yeah, this one is definitely hanging in the balance. You know, the judges are doing a lot of, you know, deliberating here to see what way they're going to go. And yeah, are we close to a decision?
so
Yeah.
it looks like we do have a decision from the judges. Mike Fitzgerald, who's getting your call?
Tough one to call, but my vote goes with Dave Egan.
So one vote for Dave Egan. Jack, you're looking at me. Who's going through?
My vote is also with David Egan.
2 votes for David Egan. It means he's going through. Judges, we're going to come back to you on this one because a lot of deliberations there. It looked very close. One of the more exciting battles. Talk us through it.
I think it all comes down to the very last run. The first run, Mark had an advantage. You know, Dave had a poor initiation. Mark had a really good chase and came away with a 6-4 after the first one. On the second one, though, this is where it gets really difficult, and we had to look over it. Dave again didn't have a good initiation in the chase position, but he did get proximity from there on. He had proximity right down into clip 5, but there is a very slight bit of contact at clip 5. It doesn't affect the lead car, but it does affect, you know, Dave's line gets affected by it, so he loses a bit of advantage there. But the biggest mistake really is going into 7. Coming into clip 7, the lead car never actually gets to clip 7 at all. It leaves very, very early and spears to the inside of the track, and that puts Dave in no place to go. He ends up going across the grass, loses his bumper and everything else. So that was the biggest mistake, and it was enough to overturn the advantage that Mark had in the first one.
So there you have it. David Egan moving on to the top 16 after a bit of a punch-up with Mark Brady over those 2 runs. We go to our final battle in the top 32. It is Alan Delaney to take on Jack Mahiney. Jack Mahiney jumping in 22nd position in qualifying, so he's going to be chasing in Alan Delaney, who managed enough for 11th position after that impressive second run of the day for him. As he leads them in, can Jack Mahiney
Yeah,
find
Alan
something
Delaney seems to have the pace out here in front, and Jack's going to have to go closer in this. You know, Alan seems to be quick, very quick out front, and Jack dives in a little bit on the inside, but he's there. He's right up onto the door now, but Alan has that pace again, and he's pulling. You know, you can see the pace difference there, I think, Eddie.
Yeah, and I think with the experience that Alan Delaney has of driving this track, he may have just geared the car better and just have a better setup. And unfortunately, Jack not doing anything wrong here, just not able to match the speed.
Yeah, big time. I think he just got caught off the pace there, and a very good leader from Alan Delaney out front. And Jack not doing a whole pile wrong, maybe didn't have the proximity what he would have wanted, but stayed on the lead run, which is important. He didn't come off it to try to get up onto the door. A little bit of a dive in there, but he stays right out onto the outside with Alan, and Alan's doing a good job. Seems to be quick, and yeah, positive for Alan so far. But Jack, is still in it definitely.
Yeah, so they make their way back up to the start line, and it's going to be an interesting second half to this one because, as you say, strong lead run, strong chase run, no major mistakes from either driver. Only really thing is proximity. So can Jack find something in the second half of this one when he's in the lead position to maybe bring the advantage in his favour? So we see in the background there James Dean and Tomas Falvey getting ready for their top 16 battle, which will be momentarily on your screens just after this one, the second half of this with Alan Delaney and Jack Mahoney. This strikes me as a battle that, if we see a similar showing on the second half of this one, we could go very much into it one more time. Two very steady drivers. There wasn't really a whole lot to take from it, the first one, just that lack of proximity, so that's probably going to be what wins out. We know Jack has a good lead line that he can lay down. We know Alan Delaney is fast, so we should see some door-on-door action as we release them for the second half of this one. Mahoney missing that second clipping zone. No one will be there.
He's a bit wide there, and I think Alan Delaney's going to use this into his advantage. And you can see Alan Delaney is watching what Jack's doing and look like his proximity's there. To be honest, he's right up onto the door now. Jack with a little bit of a correction has to kind of a bit of a strange transition there, but he's back on the door and he's made it work. And yeah, proximity there for Alan, I think, is going to take this one.
Yeah, I think proximity was going to win out, but you know what, a valiant effort from young Jack Mahoney. Now, of course, we are just mere commentators. We don't get to make the decision.
Yeah, I think that's a big learning curve there for Jack going forward about the pace, and if you're not chase driving closely, you're going to lose battles. But we're ready to move it on to the judges. They have a decision, Eddie.
They do indeed. Kieran Hines, who's getting the call?
My vote is with Alan Delaney.
One vote for Alan Delaney. Jack Shanahan.
My vote is also with Alan Delaney.
So Alan Delaney gets the call. He's moving into the top 16. That is our top 32 rounded out, and we do have our top 16 drivers. Just a quick run through of some of the battles that we are coming up against in the top 16. First off, it'll be James Dean to take on Tomas Falvey. Christy Gerrard will take on Alan O'Loughlin. Stephen Halfordy and Kieran Casey will go to war. When after that, Dan Moorhead will take on Kevin Quinn, Max Cotton and Sean Devine, Colin McLaughlin and End the Lines. Blaine Rafferty will take on Kevin O'Connell, and David Egan will take on Alan Delaney. That is an action-packed top 16, if you ask me. We turn to the line and look at this. Two good friends from County Cork going up against it. Could Falvey take down the world champ, James Dean? Well, we're about to find out. James Dean, the higher qualifier, will lead them in. But here comes Falvey straight out of the traps as he is ready to go door hunting against the best in the business, but a big gap already opens up. Not what you want against James Dean.
No, definitely not. James had the pace there from the start, and Falvey's trying to catch up from the get-go, but yeah, James has this RX-7 working really well, and he's a setup really nice. But yeah, look at that lead line for James. It's absolutely pinpoint perfect, and Falvey's trying to be at the back of the race here, and that's not where you want to be, especially when you're battling a guy like James, as you said, Eddie. Not much proximity in that run, and not a foot wrong for James, really, to be honest.
Just goes to show that even with a car that he hasn't competed in since, what is it, 2013?
Yeah, I think competitive side of things, I know, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
2014.
Let's face it, that car is definitely not. Falvey's not at a complete disadvantage when it comes to machinery here, and James Dean able to find that pace and find just that little extra bit, and maybe a lot of it comes down to experience, experience with setup, and just being comfortable behind the wheel. I think James really likes being back behind the wheel of that RX-7.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he enjoys driving the car, and it's good to be out there having some fun with it, I reckon. And yeah, Falvey is kind of coming from the back of the grid now. He has to try to pull something out of the bag in the lead position. The chances of James not being close are quite slim. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting second half, and I'm sure James is going to aim for the door of that S15 and try put on a show for us all here. For everybody watching at home, and for the team crew what are here. So yeah, James is definitely going to want to stick it to the door with Tomas Falvey right now.
Yeah, and I think he'll do just that. And he knows he can trust Tomas going into this one. And Tomas is a very steady driver, confident driver, experienced driver. And that's exactly what we're going to see now is James moving onto that door right from the off, not holding back. He'll relish this opportunity to go up against one of his good friends. Someone he knows for a great number of years as they switch it back. And James now will surely go onto the door and make that dive down the inside as Falvey.
Yeah, absolutely. Falvey had a big angle transition there, and James uses the advantage. Nothing crazy from James, but just perfect proximity the whole run there, not a foot wrong. And Falvey not doing a bad job up front as well, but yeah, it's not going to overturn the first run. A really strong run there from James.
Yeah, Falvey not making any big mistakes, but just not enough. That proximity from James, the master in the chase position. And we go to the judges to get the final decision. Kieran Hines, who's going through to the grade 8, James Dean or Tomas Falvey?
My vote is with James Dean.
James Dean, he's needs one more to progress. Jack Shanahan, you're looking at me. Who's going through?
My vote is also with James Dean.
So James Dean moves on to the grade 8. Falvey's weekend ends there, unfortunately, but I think he'll go out happy knowing that he had the opportunity to run with the best. We move it along to our next battle. Christy Gerrard, who's wowed us all morning and afternoon so far, is going up against Alan O'Loughlin. This one, Connor, is definitely going to be a close battle over the 2 runs and very interesting in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely a battle what's hanging in the balance. We've seen Alan drove quite strong the last battle, but Christy's not doing a bad job either. He's been driving well all day, so it's definitely going to be an interesting battle, and Alan can't let him get away here. Alan's going to have to go close, and we're going to have to see how it ends up after the 2 runs. But here we go, Christy to lead in Alan O'Loughlin, and Alan O'Loughlin trying to dive right into the door of Christy. A fast entry from Christy here through the inside clipping point, but Alan O'Loughlin is looking for that door. Transitions right up onto the side of Christy, and he's all over. Can he get caught? He transitions. Wow. Impressive from Alan O'Loughlin, and brave transition there.
Yes,
very brave.
Very brave. And now Christy just starting to make a few little errors there, and Alan getting caught then a little bit. It looked like there may have been a bit of contact, but it was a wheel drop from Christy Gerrard, and I think there may have been another little just little twitch from Christy Gerrard that may have put Alan O'Loughlin off.
Yeah, I think so. But impressive from Alan O'Loughlin there. That transition just in front of us here, Eddie, was quite an impressive transition, and yeah, he's.
You know what? I don't want to say it too early, but I think we're starting to see the emergence of Alan O'Loughlin, and if he comes through this battle, he's going to have the greatest test that he's ever faced, and that's going to be
absolutely
James Dean. And it's almost a shame that he's going to meet him in the grade 8 and maybe not a little bit further, because this is looking like a perfect opportunity for Alan O'Loughlin to maybe.
And I think it's good to see that Alan has finally found his feet in that car. He's been a good driver for a long time, but it's never clicked. To maybe the level what he wanted to be at, and he's driving very well now. No matter what the circumstances are in this battle or the next battle, I think he definitely should be happy with the improvements what he's done in the off season, and the testing has paid off. And that's the thing, you put in the work and you start to become a good driver, and that's what Alan has showed today.
I think it's fair to say as well what happens when you can take away some of the bigger names in the championship, that other guys come to the events thinking, you know what, I actually have a genuine chance here, and they just step their game up as a result of it. And I think that's what we're seeing with Alan O'Loughlin. He has that confidence, that belief that he can go all the way, and he's driving in that fashion as a result. And now, as he leads in Christy Gerrard, he pulls a bit of a gap, but will we see a fight back here from Christy Gerrard? We know he's got pace in that skyline. Can he find a little bit of it now and bring it to the door of Alan O'Loughlin? But Alan O'Loughlin putting on an absolute clinic here out in the lead position and not giving anybody who he's come up against an opportunity to get anywhere near him so far this afternoon.
Yeah, Christy not doing a bad job here, but Alan is strong out front. This lead line is becoming a thing for Alan, to be fair. And yeah, pinpoint perfect from Alan there again. And Christy just didn't really have an answer. And I think it's fair to say Alan is going to take this one over the 2 runs. So yeah, as we said, he goes on to meet the guy what he probably doesn't want to meet in the top 8, but it's going to be Alan O'Loughlin versus James Dean, which should be a good battle and should be some close driving in that 100%. So we head over to the judges for this one, Eddie.
Yes, Mike Fitzgerald, who's getting the call? Is it going to be Alan O'Loughlin, or is it going to be Christy Gerrard going through to the top 8?
My vote is with Alan O'Loughlin.
And Kieran Hines, your call?
My vote is with Alan O'Loughlin.
2 votes for Alan O'Loughlin. Alan O'Loughlin moves on to the grade 8, just as you assumed and predicted, Connor. Christy Gerrard, though, you know what, not going out without a fight, and a solid weekend's performance and weekend's work for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Christy, showing he's strong driving and qualifying as well and stuff, so he should definitely be happy, loading the car onto the trailer today to go home. He had a very good weekend, and I'm excited to see him back for the rest of the championship.
Well, we move it back to the start line, and a very interesting battle, a mouth-watering battle here in front of us. Stephen Halferty to take on Kieran Casey. Now, you're talking about two guys with a good bit of experience under their belt at this stage in their careers. Very steady, very difficult drivers to take down. They go up against each other. It's going to be the battle of who can be more consistent here. We know they both have a good line. Halferty, having qualified in fourth, has that line nicely dialed in. But here comes Casey in the Fleet IDS 14.
Yeah, Halferty seems to have a little bit more pace out front, but yeah, Kieran Casey's not afraid. He's diving in, and cost him a little bit, that little small bit of a correction there to get up in the door, what he was expecting. But yeah, again, Halferty's just quick out front, and you know, the line is perfect. And
it looked to me, Conor, as if Casey went to make the dive, but then almost backed out of it just as much as soon as he decided.
I think he kind of went on a bit more which angle earlier on, and you know, we can see here on the replay a very good run from Halferty. He had a left foot breaking through the first corner there, keeping the front of it in, and you know, at the same time, at the end of the day, Kieran Casey not doing a whole pile wrong. He's thereabouts for the whole run, makes a dive in, and look, he just snaps on a bit of angle early, and he gets up onto the door of Halferty, but yeah, nothing major. I think Stephen is looking strong up front, but at the end of the day, Kieran didn't do a bad job at all from behind.
Yes, well, it's the driving that won him the 2019 Drift Games Nationals Championship. You know, he went all season without winning a round, but he had very steady performances, and he scored every single round consistently, solid points where his competitors didn't, and that won out for him. But he's so hard to take down, and when that car is performing, Stephen Halferty has his line dialed very early, like we spoke about in qualifying. It's who can learn the line and adapt to it a lot quicker than anybody else, because you're coming to a competition, you're going to have minimal practice time, you're not going to have a whole lot of time to get the, and you can just see Kieran Casey just looking to get the jump there off the line. He knows he's got to be close here, he knows he needs everything, and that chicane is awaiting him. And yeah, Keen Droney, very experienced start line marshal, just goes back and just recognises it, stops them, resets them, and we are go. Casey to lead them in. Halferty now in the chase position. Can he find that little bit of extra proximity as he hunts down Kieran Casey's door? And here's where Halferty comes to make the dive. You know what? He's not a whole lot closer. This one,
you know what? I wasn't expecting what I was expecting from Halferty, to be honest.
Yeah, drops a wheel on the inside there as well. So this one,
messy enough driving, but I still think hanging in the balance. You know, maybe not crazy proximity, but he was thereabouts for the whole run. I think he can come back to the lead run and stuff now.
Yes,
you know?
And how good was Casey's lead run in comparison to Halferty's? So judges have their minds made up nice and quick. Jack Shanahan, who's going through to the top 16, or sorry, top 8.
My vote is with Kieran Casey.
So one vote for Kieran Casey. Kieran Casey looks like he may have turned this one around. Mike Fitzgerald, who's going through?
My vote is also with Kieran Casey.
2 votes for Kieran Casey, and Kieran Casey moves on to the Grade 8, taking down Stephen Halferty. And just like that, Conor,
yeah,
it
very
can all be
interesting
turned
one
on
there.
its
I
head.
think, Stephen, I think was just, he lacked a bit of proximity there. To be honest, I expected him to be all over the door and use the advantage of Kieran's good lead line, but it's the joys of it, and I'm sure we'll expect Stephen back to his best form when we see him back out next. But yeah, Kieran Casey advancing onto the top 8, having fun out in that S14, but we move back to the line for a good battle.
Yeah, a really interesting one. You know what, Dan Moorhead had a scare in the top 32, the only battle that's gone one more time, but he managed to come out the victor. He goes up against Kevin Quinn, who had that run of fortune with Charlie Geary having that D-bead as they leave the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go. Dan Moore to leave it in. Kevin Quinn, and a big entry from Dan Moorhead, but Kevin Quinn leaving a bit of room to play with there, and he tries to dive back up onto the door of Dan Moorhead now. Dan looking strong on front, but Kevin is all over the door of Dan right now and dives in up to the door of that. This is Skyline what Dan Moorhead is driving, and wheel drop from Dan Moorhead and causes a straight. And Kevin Quinn, you know, he just backed out of trouble there, and yeah, a mistake from Dan Moorhead out front. And I actually was expecting Kevin to have a better run until there, but yeah, I think that's going to be the advantage to Kevin after that one.
Yeah, I genuinely believe that Kevin would have the pace, a little bit of Dan there as they in that chase position, and Dan looking good out front up until that moment where he did have that dirt drop and it led into that big straight, and I think maybe could have gotten away with it if he didn't have the straighten, but a big mistake now in that lead position.
The straighten is the biggest problem there. I think, you know, the wheel drop is whatever way the judge is looking at, but yeah, a straighten is a massive, you know, you're going to be penalised big time for that. Look, he comes off power, Kevin kind of has to back out of it and go back on power again. So
yeah, Dan will know in his own mind.
Dan's going to be annoyed with that, definitely. And you know, we said at lunchtime today, consistency is going to be what's going to, you know, get you the top 8, top 4 in this event. And yeah, unfortunately, Dan making a mistake there and falling into Kevin's advantage, so we flip it around, and you know, Dan will be hunting for the door at that S15 now.
This one certainly not over just yet. We talk about Kevin Quinn, we talk about a guy who's really, you know, impressing throughout Europe and throughout everywhere he competes, but he is wild.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And I
yeah.
think he'll forgive me for saying that, but he is wild, and you just never know what you're going to get. So there was always that opportunity that he could do something to force an error, or to have an unforced error rather. And Dan Moorhead now, if he can find the little bit of pressure to put on Kevin, find the door here as they come through the early sections of the circuit, you never know what could happen, but he needs to do it quickly. Kevin Quinn, he's a cool enough customer at the same time, and he has that experience. He won't be phased by coming up against Dan Moore, and he looks like he's putting on a pretty good lead run here, and barring any issues through the final sections. Big slowing there from Kevin Quinn, and throws on the angle, contact through the final sections, and I don't know, it looked as though Kevin Quinn slowed, but I don't think there's anything major in that. It obviously is a slowing section of the circuit as well.
Yeah, it depends where the contact was made. Where the contact was made was probably where we should be back on full throttle, but I think a big thing, in my opinion, is the power Kevin's car is running, and it constantly looks like it's slowing, if you ask me, and I think it's coming into the factor when he's transitioning to the last corner. You can even see in that run compared to the last battle, he done it a lot safer to try and make sure that it's not going to risk a spin or stalling up and coming back in throttle. So yeah, I think maybe the judge is going to look for a replay, maybe not. They might have seen a clear cut, but yeah, overall, in my opinion, not looking at the contact, Kevin is probably looking strong there from the mistake what Dan made on the first run, but we can wash this back. Kevin doing a good job out front. Dan, proximity in places, nothing crazy. Kevin stayed on a good lead run out front and dived back in here, wrapped it around nicely, and Dan used the proximity here quite well, but then he kind of stalled up and came away from Kevin again and got lost in the smoke trail a little bit. So here are what we're watching for Kevin. Transitions in, comes on, power. It's hard to say, it's like Kevin's car just doesn't pick up, but at the same time, it's...
I think as well, Dan Moorhead's car kind of gets in the way of, his rear wheels, just to see, in the way of Quinn's rear wheels, just to see did he come on, did he come on and off power, but...
Yeah, I think the problem is Kevin is on power, it's just not picking up maybe what Dan expected, so...
So just hearing that one of the drivers has exploded their diff as they cross the finish line, so there may be a cause for our marshals just to come out and just double check the track and make sure there's no oil leaking out onto the circuit. Obviously that would cause for us to have some repairs in place and make sure that everything is safe and well for everybody else, all our other competitors, to come back out on circuit and compete. So obviously judges still deliberating over this one. So they actually have a decision, Connor, so we're going to go over to them because a bit of a close one. Kieran Hines, firstly, who's getting your call?
Vote is with Kevin Quinn.
So one vote for Kevin Quinn and Jack Shanahan.
My vote is also with Kevin Quinn.
2 votes for Kevin Quinn. Guys, we will go back to you on this one. Talk us through it. It's a little bit of an interesting battle contact, and then obviously Dan having that off as well.
Yeah, with the first one there, Dan, he just doesn't really... So Kevin has enough proximity to be able to take an advantage in the first one. But really it all comes down to the very last contact in the last corner there. At that point, Dan had the battle completely lost. But when it came into the final corner, we're not really sure what's happening. It looks a little bit like Kevin kind of stalls up a little small bit after the decel zone as he's accelerating out, because twice now this has happened. But looking back on it, Dan had dropped a bit of proximity and he cuts clip 7, completely spears, onto the inside of the track to try and gain a bit of proximity at the end. So he effectively kind of runs into Kevin on the way out of the corner. So that's what it looks like to us. So no, that was a 10-0 then.
So there you have it from the judges. Kevin Quinn moves on to the top 16. Unfortunate there for Dan Moorhead, but you know what? Not a bad run back in. So yeah, you can just see getting a quick sweep of the track.
Yeah.
So while our marshals are clearing up the track here, we will go to a short break just to get a word from our sponsors. Back shortly.
Welcome to Murray Motorsport, Ireland's premier motorsport store. We stock a wide variety of products from the world's leading motorsport brands for all motorsport disciplines, from karting to cars, available for same-day dispatch and fast worldwide delivery. Looking to upgrade your car? We stock performance parts from HKS, Mishimoto, EBC brakes, Ting suspension, Samco, Hypercross air filters, BP Racing fuels, and many more. You can check out the full range of our products at murraymotorsport.com or come and visit our new store in Walkinstown, Dublin 12.
COVID-19 has impacted all of our lives, and here at the Irish Drift Series we are no different. For the first time in Irish drifting history, the doors of Mondello Park are closed to the public. That means the only way for you to check out all of our events will be by tuning in online to our live stream broadcast. We've been raising funds by virtue of a competition in order to provide that service, and we still need your help to get us there for rounds 2 and 3. In order to enter the competition, all you have to do is head on over to the Irish Drift Series website, buy an IDS logo sticker in our shop. You'll then be entered into a competition to compete at the final round of the series in the Drift Games 180. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but it closes this coming Monday, and with very limited tickets left, now is your chance to get involved, support the series, and win one hell of an awesome prize. So we are back. Welcome back to Mondello Park for round 1 of the Irish Drift Series. We are halfway through our top 16 battles and we are moving it on. We have some interesting top 8 battles to look forward to, but more importantly, we have some interesting top 16 battles that we need to get out of the way. And you know what, Young Gun and one of the drivers that we were talking about coming into the competition as being favoured, Max Cotton, is now sitting on the start line. He is waiting to go up against Sean Devine. You know what, we built this one as going to be a very interesting battle earlier on when we saw it. Yeah, definitely this is going to be a very interesting battle. I think, you know, Max, in my opinion, what I noticed, the only thing I think what could hold him back a little bit is caught for a small bit of pace, Eddie. And, you know, there's nothing more frustrating if you are caught for a little bit of pace. And Sean's car is fast. You know, that's a fast car. Definitely is not slow. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting battle. We're about to get things underway. It's Max Cotton to lead in Sean Devine for the first half of this one. Yeah, I suppose the big thing here is that Max's car, it's not an overly powerful car. I think it's running roughly around the 400 brake horsepower mark 450. From that V8. And as you say, Sean Devine has looked very quick around here. But Max, you know what? He gave it to Dwayne McKeever last week, so he will be feeling confident, as you said. Yeah, and Sean Devine coming hunting for that door, but a little bit wild in that chase position now as he tries to swing it back, and Max definitely so steady in that front position. Yeah, that pinpoint darcy again from Max Cotton in front. But look at this, a mistake from Sean Devine on the transition. Yeah, huge straight in there now as well. Straight on the transition, and yeah, Max Cotton is perfect again over the finish line. So yeah, strong from Max out front. Sean was strong until he made the mistake on the transition. So yeah, Max is probably looking like the stronger driver at the moment again over this mistake what Sean Devine made. And I think that's the difference as well, is that, like, you know, you can have all that power, but if somebody that you're driving against is going to be so steady, not make any mistakes, get that line dialed in and just keep on it. And you know, it's Stephen Halferty-esque, because you know, it's what we spoke about with Stephen Halferty, and then obviously what happened with his battle. But Max Cotton, for a 15-year-old, is looking like a real star of the future in my eyes. Yeah, 100%. He seems to be driving quite good, and he's staying consistent. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he can pull out of the bag here against Sean Devine. I think Sean Devine maybe could have an upper hand a little bit on pace. We'll see, but
Yeah, a good strong first half again, and he's going to go into this one, feeling strong again.
I think what's interesting when you see the season that Max Cotton is having is that, if I'm not mistaken, he was a Drift Cup driver over in the UK and then got the call up to BDC this year at the last minute, unexpectedly. And he's shined. He's absolutely shined, and he's a big stage driver, even at such an early stage in his career. And what can we see now? What will he do in the chase position against Devine? He knows that he will have that advantage after the first run, after the few mistakes from Sean Devine.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is something he needs to be careful of, is the pace of cars when he's going to struggle with it. You can see here he's going to dive in, but yeah, caught for a little bit of pace, and that's what I've been watching. I've noticed it from early on this morning. The problem is he's back on, maybe road tires now. He's driving a semi-slicks in the UK, and look, he's caught for pace here already. He's caught for pace, and I could read that from the start of the event.
The question is, though, Conor, the caught for pace on that second run.
I think maybe this battle, because of Sean's battle or Sean's mistake, I think it could still swing into his way, but
it could hinder him going forward more so. Yeah,
there's nothing worse than that there,
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting point, and we can certainly monitor it as the day progresses. But the question really is going to be right now: is he going through to the Grade 8? That steady line on that lead run and those few mistakes from Sean Devine, are they outweighed by the lack of proximity in the second run?
Definitely is a close one. I think Sean had that mistake. Maybe over the 2 runs, other than the mistake, he's probably maybe a bit stronger. It's hard to say, but yeah, we wait for the call from the judges.
Yes, and they give us the nod to say they have their decision. Kieran Hines, who's getting the call going through to the Grade 8, Cotton or Devine? So 1 vote for Max Cotton. Jack Shanahan, who gets your call?
My vote is also with Max Cotton.
2 votes for Max Cotton. Max Cotton moves on to the Grade 8. Sean Devine, unfortunately, his weekend ends there, Conor, but we will obviously now, having noticed that interesting point about the speed of Max, we'll be keeping a close eye on it as he gets further into the competition. We move it on to our next battle, which will see Kyle McLaughlin taking on Enda Lyons.
Yeah, this should be another good battle. Kyle probably has the upper hand experience here again, but Enda Lyons not going to be afraid of him. So, yeah, here we go. Kyle to lead in the Lyons in the first half of this one, and Kyle gives a bit of a flick entry, and yeah, a bit of a gap opens up. Enda is a bit late on the enter and washes a bit wide, and Kyle pulls a little bit of a gap. Looking strong out front, is he now, Eddie?
He certainly is, yeah. Really strong start to this run, and Enda Lyons now just kind of starts to haul himself back into this one as best as he can. But again, just as he gets on the door, washes just that little bit wide, that loses any advantage that he was gaining, and now comes for the door once again. But again, it's just a little bit too little too late, it seems, each time trying to make those dives, but just not smooth from my perspective at least. And Kyle McLaughlin looking steady out in front.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle McLaughlin seems consistently good there in the lines. Yeah, he had proximity in places, but it was quite messy. It wasn't the best chase run. So yeah, Kyle doing a good job out front. It's going to be interesting when they switch him around to see what Kyle can do in the chase position. We've seen from the last battle he can chase drive quite closely. So yeah, he's hardly going to use that to his advantage if Enda does a good leader in front of him. But yeah, as of now, a good chase or good leader from Cahill. Bit heavy stung up into their last corner, I think, but yeah, Enda done well to deal with it, and they managed to pull around. Not a bad run.
So in our eyes, advantage to Kyle McLaughlin going into the second half of this one. He will be.
Our eyes can be very different, though.
They certainly could, as we learned earlier on this morning in qualifying. But we're not always a million miles away, Conor. Not always a million miles away, and that's what's important, So they switched them around, though. It's Enda Lyons now in that lead position. Kyle McLaughlin in the chase position, as they get the starting orders from our marshal, Cian Droney. Thumbs up, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Enda Lyons to lead in. Cahill. Oh, bit of a weird entry there from Enda Lyons. I'm not sure they missed a gear or Cahill had to slow up behind him, but he done very well to deal with it. But you can see now Cahill is trying to stay within the lines in the chase position and not try and make any mistakes, but a bit of a gap opens up here, and I think this is a little bit higher from Cahill here because he didn't have the best run up, so he didn't have the best run coming down the hill. I'm not sure if Enda missed a gear or what, but yeah, Cal gets right into it towards the end, but I'm not 100% sure what way the judge is going to look at that way, the way it started. But yeah, Cal seems pretty strong.
Yeah, certainly looking good, and coming into his own this season is Kyle McLaughlin, and perhaps one of those drivers that could emerge throughout the course of the season as a championship contender. So, judges still chatting about this one, Connor, and
Yeah, I think there was no run there to, be like, okay, he definitely should win. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the judges come up with here.
yeah, going to require a little bit of deliberation as they look back over the replay. We'll watch it back ourselves, and
I think it's something to take notice there. I'll be hoping that he missed the gear up in the run-up, or else there was something kind of went on. Cahill had to come on the handbrake to try avoid him. So yeah, kind of a strange one. I don't know why he slowed up in the straight. It's something what he shouldn't be doing. So maybe missed the gear. It could be something as simple as that, but I'm not sure. But Cahill had to try avoid it, and I think it kind of put him off through the first corner, and then he was trying to play catch up from there on.
yeah, so it will be interesting to hear the judges' take on that, as still deliberating over this one. So no clear-cut winner, at least at this point in time. So we still await Enda Lyons and Cahill McLaughlin. Cahill obviously qualifying in 7th position. Enda Lyons a little bit down the order, and the judges come with their decision. Mike Fitzgerald, a lot of deliberations there. Who's getting the call?
Yeah, very close one, but my vote is with Enda Lyons.
So 1 vote for Enda Lyons and Jack Shanahan.
My vote is also within the lines.
2 votes for Enda Lyons. Guys, give us a quick run through. That one obviously took a little bit of deliberating.
Yeah, very, very close battle overall. In the first one, Enda had a good chase, but his proximity was very much coming and going. He seemed to, I'm not sure, is he like missing a gear or something on the entry just before initiation, but he seems to sandbag for a split second. So in the chase position, that definitely gave him a disadvantage for a second, but he did make up the proximity. He had a slight mistake then just before the finish line. He kind of made a bit of a dive and brought himself towards the middle of the track. So that took a little bit away from him, but overall he was in an advantage position after the first one, just about a 5.5, 4.5. On the second one, Cahill did pretty much the same thing as Enda did on the first bit. He lost proximity just at the initiation. Again, didn't give much of a disadvantage because Enda seemed to like lose acceleration for a second. But then towards the end, just overall, Cahill didn't have quite the aggression and quite the proximity that Enda did over the rest of the run. So just on sheer and utter aggression alone, Enda just took that one.
So there you go, aggression wins it for Enda Lyons as we move on. 2 more battles in the top 16 to go. Blaine Rafferty to take on Kevin O'Connell in the first one. They are on the line. If you like 180SX as well, you're going to be spoiled for choice here. Kevin O'Connell with the experience, but Blaine Rafferty has been looking good here this afternoon, and don't count him out by any means. But can he take down the head judge of the Drift Masters European champion and former pro driver in Ireland, Kevin O'Connell? Kevin O'Connell looks to just have that speed and that setup just a little bit more dialed at the moment, but here comes Blaine Rafferty. Just shallows up a little bit, Connor, to get that angle or to get that proximity on the door, and now loses it as he needs to make another dive. Looks to be a solid lead performance here from Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, I think a big factor there is caught for pace from the get-go. I think Kevin, seems quite fast out front, and Blaine was trying to play catch-up through the whole run there. So, yeah, it's hard to stay very close when you have a fast car out front and not come off the line. Blaine done a good job to try stay as much as he could on the qualifying line. Came in a little bit here and tried to get up on the door of Kevin. Had a split second of proximity, but Kevin pulled again. So yeah, it's clear to say that Kevin's car is faster out front, but. Yeah, at the end of the day, Blaine's not making mistakes. He's doing a good job there. He's hanging on there, but I think, the proximity is definitely beatable.
Yeah, he's certainly shown a lot of potential. I think what we've seen there, as you say, a lot of forward bite from the car, Kevin O'Connell. And whatever way he has that car set up, it certainly just leaps forward when he gets on the power. And
yeah, definitely Kevin is a very clever man when it comes to stuff like that, I think, and he's been doing a lot of testing, and I think he would do a lot of research into that kind of stuff, how he can make sure that he has a fast car this weekend, and it seems to be working so far. But now we switched him around. It's time for Kevin O'Connell now to try tame that little bit of pace and follow in Blaine.
Well, you've commented on how good a chase driver he is, and very steady in that chase position. We've seen it already this afternoon, and Kevin O'Connell lines up now, and you know what, we almost counted out Blaine Rafferty in his last battle against Dara Spencer, and he proved us wrong. So I'm going to hold any opinion here, but straight from the off, Kevin O'Connell looking very quick and looking to have the pace.
Yeah. Oh, and it's a straight from Kevin O'Connell there, which he's got in the pocket transition. Oh, this is messy from Kevin O'Connell right now, and Blaine is doing a good job out front. And yeah, not probably the cleanest of chase runs. He has the proximity, but very messy from Kevin O'Connell here. I think Blaine has kept it clean, and we might see Blaine advance on here to the top 8 if whatever way the judges look at that correction on the first transition.
Could it be that Blaine Rafferty moves on to the grade 8? Well, wow, what about that? I mean, we would almost counted him out, Connor.
Yeah, I think we expected Kevin there to be close, and I think what happened was Kevin thought about being aggressive too much, and it just didn't work in his favour. He got caught in the first transition maybe, and we swing it over to the judges. I think they have a decision for us, Eddie.
It looks as though they do. Nodded heads. Mike Fitzgerald, who's getting the call?
Yeah, my vote is with Blaine Rafferty.
One vote for Blaine Rafferty, and the crowd of 5 people goes crazy. Kieran Hines, who's getting the call?
My vote is with Blaine Rafferty.
2 votes for Blaine Rafferty. He takes down Kevin O'Connell and he moves on to the grade 8. What about that? It all came down to the second run, and just when we were about to rule him out, Blaine Rafferty finds a little bit of magic.
But here it is again, consistent driving is key, and that's what Blaine has been doing today. He's not really making many mistakes, and there he let the other driver make the mistakes, and he advances on to the top 8. So yeah, good to see Blaine out in that car, and he seems to be driving very well. He's not putting really a foot wrong, and he had a very good lead run in there. Even with Kevin giving him a few nudges and stuff, he kept it clean, and he advances on to the top 8, and we move on to, is it our final battle of the top 16?
It certainly is, and another mouth-watering one, Dave Egan to take on another good friend of his and another driver that he knows very well, Alan Delaney. And you know what, Mike Leeson has a little bit of a war of who he's going to vote or cheer for here, because he's very good friends with both these guys. One pays his bills and the other one is a very good friend. Alan Delaney in the chase position. He's not going to give an inch to Dave Egan. Oh, but a straighten from Alan Delaney.
Yeah,
and
Dave
he loses some ground as a result. Can he find a little bit of pace to get himself back into this one, Connor?
Yeah, Dave Egan had a nice entry there, Alan, with a bit of a straighten. But look at this, a big dive, and thrown it away there. Little bit of a correction, still in it, but that mistake's going to cost him, I think, if Dave can keep it clean. Still, oh, look at this. Up onto the door, a little bit of...
So, there you go. I mean... Yeah, so Alan Delaney makes that mistake early on, but does he just go too aggressive as they come from 4 to 5? But a big, huge dive down the inside at the end of the run. As we just see it here.
Yeah, sorry for some technical difficulties there, but yeah, Alan Delaney, I think had a lot of mistakes there. Dave keeping it clean out front, and yeah, Alan, I think he panicked a bit after the straight, knew that he needed a bit of proximity, and he dived right into the to Dave's door, and I think it's going to cost him a little bit. So yeah, we wait for the guys to pull back around to the starting line. And
from a driver's position, Connor, having been in the position where you've made a mistake early on, do you throw caution to the wind there and risk it all, or is it better sometimes maybe to just try and get yourself back into it in a steady fashion?
To be honest, it depends how much a big of a mistake it is. If you think you can stay on the line and try keep some decent proximity, you should probably stay there, because yeah, it's kind of a 50-50 thing. Normally the dive in doesn't work sometimes,
Yeah, as it didn't on that case for Alan Delaney. But we got the second half of this one, and now Dave Egan looks like he's hanging back a little bit, maybe getting some words to the wise about what went on the first half of the run, but he doesn't want to hold back too much. And Alan Delaney fast in that 180, but Dave Egan has a bit of pace as well as he starts to bring it back in, makes the dive now. Can he stay there as Alan puts the foot back down? Dave can match him for pace as they exit that long left-hand pull, and through the final sections, no problems this time around. And another interesting battle, but one of these drivers going through to the grade 8 is going to be Dave Egan or Alan Delaney.
Yeah, Dave keeping it very clean there, nothing crazy. I think maybe wanted to go a bit closer through the first corner, but it just didn't work out that way, and he just kept that proximity the whole way through. Had some decent proximity towards the end, and I think that might get him across the finish line. So we head to the judges to get our decision. Are they still deliberating our decision?
We got a decision. Jack Shanahan, who's getting your call?
My vote is with David Egan.
One vote for David Egan. Mike Fitzgerald?
My vote is with Dave Egan.
2 votes for David Egan. David Egan's moving on to the grade 8. And just looking ahead of that, that's going to be an interesting and fun little battle. Blaine Rafferty taking on David Egan in the grade 8. And 2 drivers, riding their luck, but, very consistent driving from Blaine Rafferty. Dave's been a little bit wild. There's been a few wars. So that one to look forward to. But we moving on to our first battle in the grade 8, which will see James Dean and Alan O'Loughlin. We know about James Dean. We've talked about Alan O'Loughlin. Can he bring it now, Connor? Can he find something right now where it matters? It could be the only opportunity he ever gets to battle James Dean. What does he need to do here?
Yeah, I think a big thing is here, once he keeps doing what he's doing, if he thinks about it too much, he's going to make a mistake here. And look at this. He's all up onto the back door of James Dean already. He's trying to stay as close as he can, and nice transitions here with James Dean. This is good driving from Alan O'Loughlin here, lacking a small bit of proximity, but he's there. He's right there, Eddie, the whole way through this, and James is pinpoint perfect out front. But look, Alan dives in again. Oh, caught for a small bit of proximity, but you know what? You have to give it to him there. It wasn't a bad job. He trunk caution to the wind through the first part of that, and James is fast out front, and Alan tried to give it his all.
Yeah, and I think the end of that run makes it look as though Alan wasn't as much of a contender as he was in it. I think
this was a really good transition. This part, he was right up onto the door here, and he was very clever. He stayed. He knew that he couldn't leave James away, and got caught a small, but he could have done with coming in a bit closer here and trying to get up onto the door.
James just dials on this extra little bit of angle there, just as he comes through that section.
Yeah, I think, and James now will go back, and he's chasing and know where the points where he can stay closer if he pushes him around the finish line or has a small bit more proximity on the second transition. It could swing in James's favour, but at the end of the day, pinpoint lead run for James. Alan is up on his door. What more could we ask for?
Yeah, and I think from Alan's point of view, I think he's not going to go away from this win, lose or draw thinking I could have given it more in the chase run, I should have gone for the door more. As you can see, the boys in blue waiting in the background and obviously enjoying the action as regulars down here in Mondello Park, as we see now them lining up. Look, I mean, James had that extra little bit of pace, it seemed, towards the end of the run, but Alan O'Loughlin has a chance here, and that's all you want when you're going up against James Dean. You know all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not thrown out the window yet, but I'm sure James is going to take advantage of Alan's good lead run here and try to go as close as he can. But here we go, Alan O'Loughlin to lead in James Dean, and James right to the door of Alan O'Loughlin early on. And look at this, nice transition from Alan O'Loughlin, but James is
look at this
angle from both drivers, and yeah, Alan makes a small little bit of a mistake in the transition. James kind of follows through with him, but yeah, James is trying to get back up onto the door of Alan right now, and Alan on a good lead line out front. But look at this,
it gets caught.
Gets caught on the transition, and that could have ended very, very badly there. I think they got away, luckily.
They've got away with it without it being a big smack. But this has become a very interesting run all of a sudden.
Yeah, you can see here, look, Alan dives in, he's good through this part, and James tries to transition, but Alan snaps to lock and I think it affects James's lines a bit. He messes up his own line, and then it affects James' line. So James comes back here, Alan gets back onto line, he's pushing really hard. Alan does nothing wrong, I don't really think, and yeah, James just gets stuck for a second on the inside, and he's no other choice to keep going. But to be honest, I don't think it really affected anything. I don't see Alan's line really changing, but yeah, maybe try have a look at this replay again if we can.
Yeah, so if that error from James, does it really outweigh what happened at the start of the run? Perhaps not.
Yeah, I think because this part here is an error from Alan O'Loughlin. He snaps the lock, and James kind of has nowhere to go when he follows through in the smoke trail, and
just shows how quick the reactions are of James Dean, that he could react to that as well. Obviously, very hard to predict that Alan O'Loughlin would have.
Yeah, but here
snapped
you can
to lock
see, look,
like
he
that.
just stays in for a split second, and he done very well to get away with that, James and Alan, to be honest. And James gets back up onto the door, and judges are deliberating this one, Eddie, of what went on, and seeing what they can come up with, and maybe they've seen something what we didn't see, or we're not 100% sure. It's not our, thank God it's not our decision.
Yeah,
it's not our decision. I wouldn't want to be calling this one, I.
No, I wouldn't want to be calling it. It's wondering, what I'm wondering, based on what I've seen, is that, say, the contact with James at the end, does that bring back the mistake that Alan had at the start? Sure.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. It might go back to the first run then, and you don't know. I think that's what they're looking at, is the contact in. But do they have a decision?
Yeah, they certainly do.
Decision,
and
so
we'll go
to
to Kieran Hines for that decision.
My vote is with James Dean.
So one vote for James Dean. Jack Shanahan, who's getting your call?
My vote is also with James Dean.
So 2 votes for James Dean. It looked pretty clear-cut, guys, from where we were sitting. Obviously, Alan had that mistake by snapping to lock, but did you weigh anything on the contact at the end?
Just looking at it there, right? Okay, if we look at the first run, James is an excellent lead run. It's perfect. Alan has good proximity, but he's actually on less angle, so he's sacrificing angle to maintain proximity. So, you can't factor that in. You have to take points off for that. So that ends up in a slight advantage for James. When you swap him around in the lead position, Alan, he snaps onto angle after just coming out towards clip 3. James deals with it, but it does affect him. Both of them don't even get into clip 3 because of it. And then when we get down into the bottom corner, Alan stays kind of wide for long, and then when he gets to clip 6, he's supposed to go through clip 6, come across the 7, but he actually leaves clip 6 before, just barely gets to the edge of the box, and James runs into the back of him. Now, it's still James's fault for the contact, but James was already like a 7-3 and 8-2 up at that point, so he bled away all those points back to a 5-5, but James still had the advantage after the first run, so by a point, James takes it.
So there you go, very close call in the end by a point in James Dean's favour. He progresses on into the final 4. Up next is another very mouth-watering battle. It is Kevin Quinn to take on Kieran Casey. Quinn, the higher qualifier, will lead them in this time around as they put foot to floor side by side as they come down the straight and straight onto the door with a late initiation. But Kieran Casey getting caught, Connor.
Yeah, big mistake there for Kieran Casey, and he tried, to be honest, in my opinion, go a little bit too close through the first corner. And yeah, it's going to cost him now. Kevin is strong out front, and dirt draw from Kevin, but Kieran has him back out of it, I think. And yeah, this is messy from Kieran Casey. A messy battle in both drivers, in my opinion. Like, a lot of mistakes happening here.
Yeah, you can just see very untidy chase run there from Kieran Casey. A lot of unforced errors there, and just perhaps maybe the Kieran occasion getting to him. Obviously, the opportunity of going into a final 4 against James Dean. Both these guys will be thinking about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Kevin, he got away lucky here with the wheel drop. If it was any lucky, he nearly washed in further with close to 2 wheels. So yeah, Kieran backs out, and then he makes a massive mistake here in the last corner, and yeah, it's messy. It's messy all around.
It's one of those runs for Kevin Quinn that on another day against on another day that run would be enough to have him at a sizable disadvantage, but he's fortunate that Casey has just had a calamity of errors in the chase position.
And I think
both drivers would be looking for a more steady approach and affair on the second half of this one.
Yeah, Kevin has had a handy enough day at the office so far. A lot of mistakes happening in the battle. So I think he hasn't much experience of going close on this track and stuff yet. So I think he might use this battle for his advantage and try to get onto the door.
So we are good for the second half of this one. Can we get a cleaner run from both drivers? I know they'll be hoping for it. We're hoping for it here in the commentary tower, and I know you guys at home are hoping for it. As Kieran Casey leads in Kevin Quinn. Quinn drops back now, and then jumps onto the rear quarter. Wheel to wheel and wheel on wheel contact there, and almost stopping them in their path, but they keep it going here, Connor.
Yeah, Kevin almost made a mistake there. He tried to be so aggressive, and Kieran is not doing a bad job out front here, but it was messy enough for Kevin through the first part of the corner, but it was exciting. He went onto the door, and I told you that he was going to try use this run to try get some close proximity, but yeah, a bit of a gap opens up from the finish line. I'm not 100% sure. Messy enough battle, but I think the mistakes for Kieran on the first run could be leading into Kevin's hands, I think, Eddie.
Yes, certainly inclined to agree with you on that one, Connor, as we await the judges.
I think we are ready for it.
It looks as though we could have a James Dean, Kevin Quinn semi-final on our hands. Mike Fitzgerald, you're looking at me. Who's going through?
My vote is with Kevin Quinn.
1 vote for Kevin Quinn. Kieran Hines.
My vote is with Kevin Quinn.
2 votes for Kevin Quinn. Kevin Quinn moves on to the final 4, and unfortunately that will be the end of the weekend for Kieran Casey after a valiant performance and a really strong round for him at round 1 of the Irish Drift Series in 2020. We go over to the other side of the bracket, and the name on everybody's lips. It is Max Cotton to take on Enda Lyons in his new 180SX, and this should be a very evenly matched battle. We spoke about Max and his pace. Can he find some pace here, Connor, to outdo Enda Lyons? That's the question.
Yeah, this is going to be another interesting battle. I think both drivers kind of level playing field. So yeah, here we go. Max in through the first corner. Enda is trying to get up onto the door again, but Max is strong out front. Looking at that lead run again, and fast transition from Enda behind. He's doing a good job here, but he gets stuck a little bit, and Max is going to pull a bit of a gap here now, and Enda dives in to that wraparound corner. Nice lead run from Max out front again, and this is the same
but look
thing.
At this, here comes Enda Lyons.
Using that car, and he's diving in again. Not a bad chase from here from Enda Lyons again, but yeah, Max has definitely caught for a bit of pace out front again, Eddie. A good lead run, but yeah, can he master proximity what Enda put on the door? I think, he can maybe do a tidier chase run definitely than what Enda done here with a bit more proximity. You can see here Inda done a very good job to dive up onto the door here. Had to back out of it a small bit just on the handbrake. Look, he drags the handbrake and Max gets away for a split second, but done a good job to dive back in here, and he was in the fight for pretty much the whole thing, and Max had a good lead run out front.
Yeah, so this is possibly the biggest question mark that we've seen over Max Cotton now so far this afternoon. And as you say, putting in that very strong lead run, but it is a good, solid chase run from End of Lines. Not a whole lot of mistakes. We did have that little issue just as they transitioned back for a clip 4, but outside of that, Connor, not a whole lot wrong with it from Enda's point of view, and his team will probably be on the radio saying to him, you know what, put in a solid lead run, you could be going through here.
Yeah, definitely, and now you're at a deciding factor. You know, one of the boys are going to a semi-final, so you know you're thinking about taking some. You know, you want to go and stand on the podium now. So yeah, here we go in the lines, and Max is left with a bit of a gap off the start line. He needs to get up close here. He needs to dive in, and you know this a bit of a gap on the way in is not going to do it, in my opinion. And Inda's out front strong.
No, certainly not.
Max trying to dive in.
He needs to be glued here for the rest of this one.
Max needs to dive into the door here, and yeah, you know, just not the pace for me, not the proximity, and Inda's looking strong out front. And you know what, this exciting driver Max Cotton we might be looking at In the Lines going to the top 4 here. I'm not 100% sure, but the pace of In the Lines compared to Max Cotton right there, Max was caught for a little bit.
Yeah, I think if you compare lead to lead and chase to chase, both lead runs are very solid, but the proximity is there a lot more in favour of End of Lines. Judges look like they have a decision.
No, we need to see a replay.
Oh, they're looking for a replay,
yeah.
Sorry. I was thinking that was a quick call.
So yeah, you can see Inda fires into the inside clip. Nice lead run here. Max does get up on the door here a little bit for some proximity. The only thing what I do like about Max is here, he's staying on line. He's not coming offline. You know, even here, look, he's not diving way in. He's nearly farther out, you know, than Inda in some places. That's the only thing what I could put back into the point of the favour of Max. He hits nearly every clipping point in the chase run while, you know, not having crazy proximity. On the other hand, I can't remember exactly what Inda's chase run was like. Both lead runs are quite similar, so yeah, this is going to be an interesting one for the judges.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think Enda
100% sure.
had moments of being a little bit closer, but anyway, it's not our decision to make. Thankfully, we've done our deliberations. The judges have done their deliberations. Mike Fitz, who's getting the call, and moving on to the final 4.
I want to see him one more time.
One more time call from Mike Fitzgerald. Jack.
I also want to see it one more time.
And one more time. And Kieran, just out of interest, you want to see it one more time, and I don't think there's going to be too many people arguing with that. Just talk us through it, guys, as they make their way back to the line. Not a whole lot to split the two guys over the 2 runs.
Yeah, nothing to separate them really, Eddie, over the 2 runs. In the first one, Max had a good lead, as he has been doing all day long. Fantastic line driver. Inda was making dives. He was getting a little bit caught, and he was again in this battle, he was aggressive, but he was making a little mistake. So in the first one overall, between the aggression and the couple of mistakes, I scored at 5-5 and switched them around. In the second one, Max didn't quite have the proximity on initiation, just around clip 1 and 2 there. He did gain it back, and he did stay on line gaining it back importantly, but he never really brought a huge battle to Inda. He was never really like on his door until the very end of the track. So again, I scored that at 5-5. Not a bad lead, not a bad chase, just similar runs, you know. So overall, couldn't split them.
Well, they couldn't split them on the first one. We have a one more time on our hands, the second time of the weekend that we are going one more time. And these two guys, well, what's up for grabs? A place in the final 4 at round 1 of the Irish Drift Championship, and a shot at some silverware, but also important championship points up for grabs in this 3-round championship. It's going to be tight, and all the points that you can grab are important, particularly in such a short season. As Max Cotton leaves the line, and the lines just backs off there just a little bit and lose some ground here, Conor.
Yeah, big time. Max got a good kind of jump off the line there, and yeah, Inda's trying to make some dives now back onto the door, but this is a little bit better from Max out front. Look at this. Oh, fast transition from Inda. Nice transition from Inda. Back up onto the door. He's aiming for the door of Max Cotton with a nice leader from Max Cotton out front. Can Inda make it a nice clean transition and get up onto the door again? Oh, falling a bit into the inside. Max with another strong leader now, and yeah, Max looking the favourite, and that kind of runs there. I think Inda got caught off the line a little bit through the first corner, and he just didn't have the proximity what he had in the first run, Eddie.
Well, let's just have another look at this, because we obviously see that Enda does back off the throttle, but is there anything from a little bit of a little bit of a bump there from Max Cotton? You can just see the bonnet just dip there. Did he release off throttle, and was that then the catalyst that caused Enda Lines?
Yeah, I think maybe small bit, but The only thing I was maybe a little noticing is that it's the same as every other run what Max has done, in my opinion. I did notice it on the last run too, to be honest, and yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe there is something what the judges will see, but
Is it possible that it's just a gear change?
it could be like that. You know, in that last battle, he missed a gear, and you know, the other driver had to come on the handbrake to try avoid him and stuff. So you don't know. You know, it could be something small. We're not 100% sure. We'll see if we get another replay of it. I'm sure we'll see it again.
Well, we do have the second half of the run anyway of this one more time. Thumbs up from the Marshall Keen Droney. These guys are ready to go as they... Oh,
That's
sorry,
a replay.
excuse me.
That's a replay, Eddie.
Sorry, no replay sign on the screen. I should have copped from Max being obviously in that lead position, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I think maybe the judges did see what happened there, and yeah, if it is a case that Max backed off, I'm sure the judges will give, you know, the advantage, or not the advantage, but the
benefit
the gap up was pulled back to, you know, in that wouldn't be the case. But yeah, I think this is a big factor now for Max Cotton, that he needs to realise that he needs to be more aggressive than what he was in the last battle, and if he's not going to be, there's a fair chance that he could be going home after this battle if he's not putting on the door of in the lines right now.
Well, here we go. Let's see, can he do just as you say, Connor, and go for that door? Well, he's gone in bumper to bonnet entry here, and it looks like he is trying to be that much more aggressive. Does he have the pace to keep it is the question, as they throw it into this big long left-hander
gap, and
End of Lines throws it away. End of Lines throws it away, and they say you need a little bit of luck.
And you know what I was just about to say? This in the lines guy is driving very, very well, and
so you're not even allowed to have those thoughts in the commentary tower.
Max Cotton drove very well there, and I think an important fact is that he realised what he needed to change a little bit. He was a bit more aggressive than the last run, you know, but still very tentative. Look on this transition here when he comes away. Looks like he's going to dive in, panics and comes off him. I know Inda was maybe running a bit hot there because obviously he went off the track, but yeah, that's frustrating for Inda, driving very well, and I think he should be really happy with the driving what he done today in that car, and you know, there's a chance that Max is going to advance on to the top four now.
So judges having their final discussions on it. That should, I would imagine, make things a lot easier. Judge's decision, Kieran Hines.
My vote is with Max Cotton.
And Jack Shanahan.
My vote is also with Max Cotton.
2 votes for Max Cotton. No need to go back to the judges for an explanation. Very clear cut after that second run. And Max Cotton progresses on to the final four. The dream weekend continues for the youngster. And maybe a little bit of fortune, but fortune favours the brave. And Max Cotton moves into the final four.
Yeah, definitely good to see, you know, same again there, Max not making the mistake in the battle is one. It's always one who makes the mistake, and Inda was the person who made the mistake this time. So another interesting battle, one I'm looking forward to.
So Dave Egan makes his way to the line. Blaine Rafferty will follow him shortly. Reminder that if you want to compete at the final round of the Irish Drift Series, you can do so in one of David Egan's drift cars, and you could be lining up right next to your heroes. All you got to do is 30 stickers left. All you got to do is go onto our website, irishdriftseries.ie, go into the shop, buy an IDS logo sticker for €20. Do that and you'll be entered into a draw to compete at the final round. The draw is on Monday and only 30 tickets left. You can buy as many as you like, so enter, and who knows, you could be facing James Dean or Dave Egan, or even Blaine Rafferty. This November. So here we go, Dave Egan, Blaine Rafferty. These two guys have rode their luck all afternoon. These two guys have been awesome all afternoon. They've been exciting. They've given us everything. Now they go head to head as we start to ramp it up. 1 spot left in the final four. Dave Egan puts the power on as Blaine Rafferty comes a little bit shallow, but now he brings the fight. Big dive from Blaine Rafferty down the but he keeps it going just about, Connor. Blaine Rafferty finds something to keep that car going, but he's going to have a huge disadvantage after that one. But these guys have been two of the most exciting drivers all day. They've given it everything. Shame that one of them has to go home at this late stage.
Blaine sent it really hard in through the first corner here, and you can see, look, he makes a small mistake when he hits the curb and loses a bit of proximity. Transitions a bit into the inside, and you know he's aiming for. You can see him looking out the window there. He's like, I'm going to get you, and look, dives, and yeah, you can see he snaps the lock, hits the front brake hard, and it jams the lock, and that's a pity. You know, Blaine has been driving really well. Yeah. It's a shame to see that one of them is going to lose on a mistake like that, if that is the case. But you know, coming back to it again, Dave is looking you know, not putting a foot wrong out front. He's
Well,
just
we have
saying the
written
same
off
thing all
Blaine
the time.
Rafferty in the top 32,
Yeah,
in
that's-
the top 16, and every time something has happened and he's brought himself back into it. This one is not over, regardless of
Far
how
from
it
over.
finishes.
Far from over, yeah.
I think both these guys will be delighted to have made it this far in the competition, but they will be even more delighted at the prospect of going up against Max Cotton in the final four, and who knows, maybe a shot at one of either James Dean or Kevin Quinn in the final. So here we go, back lined up for the second half of this one. It hangs in the balance, perhaps a slight advantage to David Egan after those mistakes from Blaine Rafferty, but we got the other half to come. Here we go, thumbs up from the Marshal. Cian Droney gives the go. They come through the gears, and as they head down the straight, side by side, as Dave Egan now tucks in behind Blaine Rafferty. Will he play it safe? Absolutely not. He doesn't know the meaning of it. Bumper to bumper, perfect transition. And this one, a big run now, and as Blaine just comes off, they make contact as they come around the horseshoe. And David Egan is tucked right in there. He's all over Blaine Rafferty. Blaine Rafferty, can he find a bit of a gap towards the end? Oh, what about that?
Dave Egan making a little bit of a statement there, Eddie, huh? A bit of a proximity time, and very good proximity there from Dave, but a really good lead run from Blaine out front, and great to see two guys out there having fun, and it's good to see you know, Blaine having an unbelievable event, a grade 8 finish in his first event in that car is great, and Dave back out competing and putting on some doors and stuff is good to see also, and there's a chance that he could be heading to the top 4 here when we head to the judges and see.
Yeah, shame to be losing one of them, as both of them such exciting drivers. Judges look ready to give a result. Jack Shanahan, who's getting the call? David Egan or Blaine Rafferty?
My vote is with David Egan.
One vote for David Egan. Kieran Hines, who's getting your call? One more for David Egan. He's going through to the final four to face Max Cotton. Kieran?
My vote is with Dave Egan.
2 votes for David Egan. He moves into the final four, but a round of applause for Blaine Rafferty. What a performance. What a way to initiate the new car. And you know what? A really, really big day for him. I think he'll be delighted going back up home with the team. And we have got an exciting final four. It's going to be James Dean to take on Kevin Quinn. It's going to be Max Cotton to take on David Egan. An opportunity for Max for redemption against David Egan, but here we go. They're lined up. James Dean, Kevin Quinn. Quinny won't be backing down here one bit.
No, he's definitely going to want to take home this. You know, he wants to beat James, and every driver here today wanted to beat James, and if anybody wants to beat James, it's definitely Kevin Quinn, but we're about to find out. James flicks in hard, and Kevin dives up onto the door. Look at this, and Kevin is stuck for a bit of pace for that RX-7 as well, but he's trying to make it work with James. It's quite perfect out front, and Kevin is...
Well, Kevin's coming to bring the fight now into the final sections. Maybe caught a little bit early on, but he certainly has the power to keep with Dean, as Dean just finds some insane pace in that RX-7. Unbelievable how he manages it. And Quinn with no response through the final section.
Same again, just nobody, you know, Kevin doesn't have the answer there. James is on a mission out front. What a leader from James here. Like, Kevin dives in, does a very good job, but he just, look, the minute James gets on full throttle, he pulls away a little bit. You know, this transition to the other party, every time you think James is gone, you know, he backs in, just puts on that perfect angle, he just sits there and comes away for a little bit just to, okay, I've done it, and then the last corner is, you know, is easy work for James. Kevin dives a back in, but nothing crazy. There's no point of really good proximity there from Kevin, but I think, yeah, James is maybe going to have the advantage over that one.
And it just goes to show just how hard it is to beat James Dean. And you've managed it on one occasion, Connor.
Yeah.
Talk to us about it. It wasn't easy, but I mean, what a magical night that was. But just what does it mean? What goes through a driver's head when they come up against James Dean? Because surely you must feel as though you're defeated before you leave the line almost.
Yeah, I think that's the worst thing you can do, though, is think about it in that way, you know, and a lot of drivers do think about it in that way, and I think it's important just to, I always,
oh. So a stall off the line.
Not 100% sure what happened.
Yes, we need to take a quick look back over the replay at that just to
Flag
see
him.
is there marshal error as Kevin Quinn completes the run of the circuit. So some late drama towards the end of round one as was that driver error from James Dean?
I think
As we take a
we're not
quick-
100% sure. They're saying maybe the car cut out. Yeah, it's
Interesting.
Interesting one, yeah.
So, just looking at that one now, and obviously we need to have a quick conversation with the judges just to see what way they have interpreted what's happened at the start line.
Yeah, I think this, if they watch the replay, it is a judge's decision to see. So, yeah, basically now the judge is going to make a decision of what, what happened there, watch some replays and see basically what went on, and speak to the drivers and see what happened. But so yeah, we're in the the final 4 of the round 1 of the Irish Drift Series. It's getting exciting now, and I'm not 100% sure if a driver jumped the line there with things are on the edge or not. I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, we're going to wait and see and see what they come back with, and hopefully Eddie has an answer for us here now. Have you an answer for me, Eddie?
So, obviously, just needing to confirm with the judges what way they want to proceed with that. Obviously, there are no false starts unless it is deemed to be marshal error.
Okay.
So they've obviously wanted just to check the replay. Having seen the replay, they are satisfied that it is no marshal error and that it is the driver's fault for stalling the car. So we will move to.
Okay. So Kevin Quinn advances on.
So that actually, yeah, after having 2 runs,
We can just get.
we go to the judges now for a decision. So Kieran Hines, we've deliberated, we've discussed, obviously that being the second half of that battle. We need a decision from the judges, an official decision.
My vote is with Kevin Quinn.
So 1 vote for Kevin Quinn. Mike Fitzgerald,
My vote is with Kevin Quinn.
2 votes for Kevin Quinn means Kevin Quinn is moving on to the final, and James Dean bows out of competition, but we will see him again for a 3rd and 4th place playoff. Guys, we've got to go back to you. Obviously, in the rules, it very clearly states that there are no false starts unless it is deemed to be marshal error.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you can see it in the replay. Keane actually looks at the 2 thumbs up. That means both drivers are ready. He walks out of the way and gives them the signal to go. And Kevin leaves, and James jumps forward. It looks like he's in the wrong gear or something, and it just stops. So that's completely driver error. So the only way it can be a false start is if Keane, the start line marshal, didn't get the thumbs up from both drivers. But in this case, he did.
So there you have it, shocks in the final 4, but that means Kevin Quinn moves on to the final. James Dean goes into the 3rd, 4th place playoff. Max Cotton takes on David Egan in the other side of the bracket, final 4. Now, David Egan and Max Cotton have battled in the past back in the BDC Battle Royale. David Egan won that battle and won the event. Now Max Cotton has an opportunity at redemption and an opportunity to go into the final here at the Irish Drift Series round 1 in Mondello Park. Dream weekend for the youngsters. Dave Egan comes and looks to put pressure on him, and Dave Egan goes off circuit. And you know what?
Yeah,
That's what you get for hitting 15-year-olds.
Yeah, for Dave's point of view, there's no point to that there. He's trying to hold battle away for 1 point of the bit of proximity. I think Dave's car has broke a track rod, and yeah, Max Cotton, I think, has a chance is going to sail on to the final here, Eddie.
Yes, and with that, something we haven't really discussed is an opportunity to win on Irish soil as a foreign driver. Could he be the first to do it in a grid where James Dean was present? Hard to argue.
You can't really argue that point.
You can't really argue. So I'd say there's a lot of international people watching on with a lot of interest here at the moment. A certain streak that we've talked about in the past, but
that's just a pity that happened, Dave. Early on in the run, but just being overly aggressive is not gonna be the answer on a transition. So yeah, I think Dave just got stuck and broke a track run.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's game over if there's no 5-minute rule.
yes, there you go. Yeah, exactly. No 5-minute rule for David Egan. That means we do have our final and our 3rd, 4th place playoff. So David Egan will have very limited time to try and get that car fixed, because obviously he doesn't have we'll obviously need to confirm it with the judges. First of all, that there was no fault of David Egan in that. So we will run back over to the judges to get a decision, first of all, Connor, on that battle, and then we will progress from there. So they are deliberating. we're still discussing. Guys, just quickly over to the judges. Obviously, we need to just determine that there is no competition timeout for Dave and that he was at fault himself for any contact there with Max Cotton.
Yeah, Dave was just being a little bit too aggressive, I think, through clip 2, and he just found himself caught. And we actually noticed in the last battle as well that he just had he had the same situation. So I just think he was just a little bit more up than what he thought he could have been, and he just got in contact then with Max's rear wheel, and then that ended up breaking his track rod. So there's no competition timeout for Dave.
So yeah, there we have it. Max Cotton and Kevin Quinn in the final, and David Egan. Yeah, so we're hearing that there's a chance that David Egan might not have the parts to fix it.
So
yeah, so right.
So Marshall's just hearing from Dave. Obviously, we get to the final 4, and if Dave had those parts, you know, a certain amount of time can be allowed at that point to get back into the pits and get prepared for the next battle. But whether or not they will have the parts to do that is the question.
Maybe if it's a tie rod, then maybe we'll have a chance to straighten it and get it fixed if they can.
Welcome back to round 1 of the Irish Drift Series. We had a momentary break, but we're waiting for our drivers in the final 4 to get back to the start line. It looks as though James Dean is now on the way, and David Egan, obviously with that problem with his car, if he's not at the start line when James Dean gets to the start line and has his tyres warmed, then he will forfeit that run, and he will not be able to take part in the top or in the 3rd and 4th place battle. So we are seeing that James Dean has left his pitting area and he's on the way to the track, and you can see him in your screens there in the distance pulling up. And as we say, David Egan in the pits after going back in to refuel and check that car over. Obviously damage caused on that car, and with no 5-minute rules, he does not have a 5-minute rule. So it's a case of as soon as James Dean gets to the line and crosses the line, that will be an automatic 10-0 advantage to James Dean, and then Dave Egan will have enough time to get back to the line for the second half of the run if he chooses to. But at that point, if James Dean is on the line and ready to go, he will forfeit the run, and that will be that. So we are ready to go. So the marshal's just explained to James Dean what is going on. Obviously, Dave Egan in that contact. James Dean crosses the line, and Connor, not how we would have wanted to decide our 3rd and 4th place battle, but James Dean crosses the line.
I think James is going to put on a little show lap for us here. Absolutely full throttle everywhere. Yeah, just out there having fun. Maybe not the result what he was hoping for. He was probably hoping for a win. Unfortunately, what happened in the top 4 battle with Kevin Quinn was a little bit disappointing, but yeah, that's the joys of it right now. But yeah, I want to laugh for James Dean, and you know, it's great to have him back on the Irish side of competitive things in the RX-7, and you know, what a show he's put on for us here today, and it's great to see him back in the RX-7, Eddie. Yeah, fantastic to see him back, and you know, that is it's not the position on the podium that he would have wanted, but it is a podium nonetheless for James Dean, and he does go to 3rd place. Obviously, we're hearing as well through the radios that Dave Egan not able to get that car fixed, obviously not given a 5-minute rule, and so we now we move on to the one battle left, Connor, and you know what, it's been an exciting day. Before we go to it, any highlights from you? Anybody that has really stuck out in your mind as you know, a real up-and-comer? Obviously, Max going into the final now against Kevin Quinn, and you know, we've talked at length about his ability as a youngster. But anybody else that really kind of wowed you today? Yeah, I think, you know, overall it's good to look at the driving as a whole, and I think the driving was very good today. It's good to see a lot of young talent coming through again, a lot of good driving, and you know, Max going into the final. Maybe not the hardest day he had at the office, Eddie, but you know, he deserves to be there. He stayed consistent. He hasn't made mistakes. He's in the final, and that's what it's all about, you know. And yeah, you know, Kevin, I think, is the same. He's in the final as well. He just kind of tried to keep his nose clean, and he got there. And maybe not the top 4 what we were hoping for the finish, but you know, that's the joys of drifting. You always have that kind of side of it that it will always change. It constantly does change. But yeah, you know, I'm excited to watch this final. I'm excited to see Max and Kevin, and hopefully it can be a good battle and be the final what we were hoping for. But yeah, overall the driving has been good. It's been an enjoyable day, and I think it's good to get the Irish Drift Series on the road.
Yeah, it certainly is, and obviously the first of our 3-round series that we're putting on this season. And you know what, 2 more exciting rounds to come. We're going to be using 2 completely brand new layouts as well in this Mondello Park. So obviously, with having no audience allowed to, or spectators allowed to attend, we've actually, you know, it opens up some extra elements of the circuit here in Mondello that we can use. Obviously, a little bit of logistical nightmare to try and get spectators into these areas of Mondello Park. That's why they haven't been used in the past. So you can see Kevin Quinn makes his way up to the line, and Max Cotton starts to warm his tyres, and we are almost ready to go here, Conor, now for our final battle. And with that spot on 3rd position secured by James Dean, many people said, you know, James undefeated, but it just goes to show the machine is still human, and driver error unfortunately knocked him out against Kevin Quinn. Kevin Quinn having a bit of luck. Now we go into our final, and Kevin Quinn will take on Max Cotton. What a week it has been for him. The last 7 days have been, I would say, truly epic for that youngster. 2 podiums and 2 trophies taken home from the British Drift Championship last weekend.
And another trophy here today.
Another trophy guaranteed.
Yeah.
Going back to the UK with that young man today, and certainly a bright future ahead. And where he's going to finish, 1st or 2nd, that is yet to be decided. I think a successful day at the office. Either way, we almost have our final. Kevin Quinn will be looking at his first opportunity to take a podium, or a first place step at an Irish podium. And here we go for the final time today. Max Cotton to lead in Kevin Quinn. Quinn right up on the door, straight from the off. So aggressive here. And we talked about the pace of Max Cotton, but that line is as perfect as always so far. Quinny is right with him as Kevin Quinn now dials on the angle to go door to door with Max. And a very steady approach here from Kevin Quinn as he now goes aggressive and puts that S15 into harm's way. But Max Cotton, you know what, Conor, he may not have a whole lot of pace, but he's certainly got a lot of nerve for a young kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a very good run there. Another good lead run again. And I think Kevin not doing a whole lot wrong, nothing exciting, but he had good proximity for the whole run, which is good. And yeah, I'm excited to watch the second half of this. If Max can, you know, pull something out of the bag and do incredible proximity and push the doors off Kevin, that would be great to see. But yeah, Max, I think, is the key point about Max's driving is how consistent he is. Like, the lead run is pretty much bang on every run. It doesn't really change. You know, he's driving is always constantly the same, which is good. But yeah, Kevin not doing a whole lot wrong, kind of staying on line, keeping decent proximity. So I'm excited to see the second half of this one, Eddie.
Yeah, certainly. And after that first run, Max Cotton putting himself in a situation, in a position, Conor, to take the streak, to be the one. I mean, we have had some of the best drivers in the world, and a 15-year-old from the UK, a relative unknown, could be coming here to take down the Irish streak in Mondello Park on a sunny day in September, when everything else this year has been pretty uneventful. All we've seen now is 2 guys going at it, and Max Cotton could be about to take it down, but can he take down Kevin Quinn? Kevin Quinn, the streak in his hands, everything on his shoulders. Can he hold it together? As he
Max is trying to find the door,
shreds those tires as they come around the final section, the final time today, unless we go one more time. Kevin Quinn, Max Cotton, your finalists, round 1 of the Irish Drift Series.
You know what? I'm not sure. I really don't know. I can't really decide that there. I think it's nothing really very different for both drivers. It's quite similar.
There's nothing standout.
I'm not sure, is there?
The words you're looking for, Conor.
Yeah.
There's nothing you'd say from either driver where you'd go, oh yeah, he's blown it, he's thrown it away, or he's won it, he's grabbed it, he's done enough.
Yeah, there's no wow factor in them runs there. You know, there's no point where you say, okay, it's definitely that guy. Or both are quite consistent. You know, Kevin's lead run is decent enough out front as well, and Max kind of same proximity as what they had. So yeah, I'm excited to see what the judges are thinking right now. So much at stake
here, and it kind of snuck up on us here. I mean, the magnitude of what this youngster could be about to achieve. When you talk about the drivers that have come to this country, Daigo Saito's been here, Asbo's been here. You know, there's a whole host of them. how many European drivers have we had
I know,
come to these
yeah.
shores over the years, you know, and such talent. And a 15-year-old could be about to do it. And what's more, he could be about to do it with James Dean on the grid, and that says everything.
Absolutely, yeah. No, this is definitely a big, opportunity for Max if he can take this down. But yeah, as of right now, I'm not 100% sure. Have we, the judges, got a bit of thinking going on, or
Well, they're
they're looking over it, so I'm not sure if they made a decision yet.
They're definitely thinking anyway, Connor. That is for sure. So, we won't be announcing the winner. It will either be decision or one more time. And usually when they're talking at this length, it could be a one more time. So Connor, as we await for the judges to make that final call, we were speaking about it briefly, some of the drivers that are coming through the Irish ranks. I mean, obviously you've been there yourself. You're a product of these series that we've had in Ireland. Just what lies ahead for some of these guys, obviously, and who do you think has what it takes to kind of make that step from the Irish Drift Series and maybe into a European Championship in a few years' time?
Yeah, it's very hard to say at this kind of stage as such who can be, where they want to go. But I think a big point is a lot of being a successful driver and driving in Europe is not about how good you are in the car all the time. And I think as a young guy, some people maybe forget that. I went through that stage as well. If it was all I wanted to do was drive, but there's a lot more to just driving. And I think it's important to see that drivers are really enjoying it. And there's a lot of talent here, Eddie, and it's great to see. And personally, if I was to pick a favourite to go on and do something, I think I would pick Max, and completely because of just he's well switched on what he's doing. His media is good, and he's a very clever kid, humble. I'm excited to see where he goes, but I'm excited to see where everybody goes, young guys in this championship, and it's a really good time for Irish Drift Series, and I'm looking forward to watching the future.
Obviously, we spoke very briefly as well about Max, and we said he has his vlog series. He practices online like yourself. Just how important is it? He's got a lot of sponsorship backing as well. How involved they are is another question. But he's obviously got these business relationships, these working relationships, and for a 15-year-old to kind of have that confidence to be out there representing these brands, as a youngster who's done that yourself, is it important for drivers to be doing that from an early age? Is that what's going to get you there and give you that better opportunity to get you comfortable in those environments?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think making yourself comfortable and having confidence is one thing, but having a young age and having a big profile is a massive advantage in my opinion. If they can see that you're winning events when you're young and you're clever, that's a massive eye opener going forward to much more bigger stuff. And I'm looking forward to see what he can do, and hopefully he can stay the way what he's doing. And but I wish everybody the best of luck here. I'm not going to talk about Max all the time, but there's a lot of good drivers here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen.
So it looks as though we can go to our judges. Kieran Hines, I have one question for you. Do you have a decision, or are we going one more time?
I want to go one more time.
Mike Fitzgerald?
Very, very close, but marginally, I've got to go with Kevin Quinn.
And then Jack Shanahan, you are going with? So hang on, the question is a decision or one more time, judges? So do you have a decision, or are we going one more time?
We have a decision.
So we have a decision, guys. We go down to our podium in just a moment's time. Obviously, our guys are going to take the time to set that up. Connor, it's been a great day, really exciting. And we obviously know James Dean going to third step on the podium. We still have to announce who is going to be first and second.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great day, and I think a great time for Irish drifting. And we're about to make the decision right now. I'm not 100% sure what it's going to be, but yeah, obviously we've got James third in the podium, and we're looking forward to making that final decision. But we're going to, wrap it up and making these decisions, and hopefully we're going to take, I think, we're going to chat to Eddie now quickly, just before he runs down to the podium, about the day what we just had.
Yeah, look, a really special day. Obviously, we've waited a long time to get here, and you know, the team has put in hours and hours of work. We've planned and planned and planned and replanned for this event, and eventually, you know, we've made it here to have, you know, to have James Dean on the grid, to have Kevin Quinn come in, and to have guys come from the UK. You know, it's really, really special, and you know, I think overall a very successful first round to the Irish Drift Series. And I think you know, it's a good first round to build on, and exciting times and an exciting future ahead. But we do have our drivers down in front of the grandstand, and we are ready to announce our winner and our first, second, and third position on the podium. And I can announce in third position is James Dean. And after a lot of discussion from our judges, a lot of watches on the rerun, and an incredible drive, I can announce in second place it is Max Cotton. And your winner of round one of the Irish Drift Series 2020 is Kevin Quinn. Huge performance from Kevin Quinn, huge performance from Max Cotton, narrowly missing out on the win here this weekend. James Dean takes third position. That is it from me and from Conor Shanahan. We will be back on your screens on the 10th of October for round two of the Irish Drift Series, live from Mondello Park. Thanks for joining us. COVID-19 has impacted all of our lives, and here at the Irish Drift Series we are no different. For the first time in Irish drifting history, the doors of Mondello Park are closed to the public. That means the only way for you to check out all of our events will be by tuning in online to our live stream broadcast. We've been raising funds by virtue of a competition in order to provide that service, and we still need your help to get us there for rounds 2 and 3. In order to enter the competition, all you have to do is head on over to the Irish Drift Series website, buy an IDS logo sticker in our shop. You'll then be entered into a competition to compete at the final round of the series in the Drift Games 180. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but it closes this coming Monday, and with very limited tickets left, now is your chance to get involved, support the series, and win one hell of an awesome prize.
Welcome to Murray Motorsport, Ireland's premier motorsport store. We stock a wide variety of products from the world's leading motorsport brands for all motorsport disciplines, from karting to cars, available for same-day dispatch and fast worldwide delivery. Looking to upgrade your car? We stock performance parts from HKS, Mishimoto, EBC brakes, Ting suspension, Samco, Hypercross air filters, VP Racing fuels, and many more. You can check out the full range of our products at murraymotorsport.com or come and visit our new store in Walkinstown, Dublin 12.